triple kill, but Son of Finn, he'll deny the plant. Easy super kill. Oh my god! Son of Finn will find more!
Where's Miracle? He's trying to come upstairs, but Crafty will get the ace. He'll get the plant. He'll do it all.
Device, misses shots. He's gonna have to go for the
he pushes it through. Dylan is better.
Round two, and there's another as Tyrant is finished off,
And they all line up for Bone.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to SCS. We're here in the final match of Week 3, and as you can see, to my left, we have a very special guest joining us, Infernosis. So glad to be with you here on your first SCS cast. How's it feeling?
Feeling pretty good, a little nervous, a little jittery, but, you know, I'm looking forward to it. It's just down to the basics, R6, so glad to be back here with you especially, so we got a pretty good team going on. What do you want to tell us about each of these teams?
Oh, of course I will. We've got Team Vale against Synthetic. Another match that is critically important to the standings. Seeing as we're in Week 3, there's only 2 more weeks to go left in the group stage, and that's quite a daunting thing to say, seeing as both Synthetic and Team Vale, currently sitting at 5th and 6th respectively, they're in the hot seat, at risk of losing out on an opportunity to go to playoffs, and now as they face off tonight, only one team theoretically can march ahead and still be in that battle.
It's going to be a big determining factor. Team Vale desperately needs this one. They're even farther behind in points than Synthetic is. Honestly, it could be hard for them to even come back at this point. But I think that Synthetic has had a lot of opportunities on their plate recently, going into other leagues and trying out and going into qualifiers, and maybe they've just been a little bit distracted going into this one, so they haven't been able to play their A game, but they're definitely going to have to bring their A game tonight if they want to progress and make it out of this.
And that's something to talk about. Of course, all the relevant qualifier experience should help to build them up a little bit more. The roster in the first 2 weeks of Season 5, I would say, has been somewhat tumultuous. There's been a lot of kind of pickups, drops going around, and with Synthetic finally finalizing that roster, I'm hoping that this is the starting point with that qualifier experience, the momentum building behind them to come into Week 3 and start something great. Of course, the new pickups that they've got coming into this are Freak GN, you might have seen play in some of the past seasons of Challenger League. Also coming alongside is Mohesi.
Yeah, obviously you're going to have something going off pretty well. Synthetics bringing in a couple new players, trying new things out for Team Vale. You've got Psycho, Ifer, Frozen, Hypers, Marmalade. You've got a lot going on for them. They have a fairly good overall rating, higher than, than Synthetic sides is. So here's hoping that Team Vale can take that and really show off into this one. Maybe they've just been doing a little bit better, just haven't shown that in comparison. And quite frankly, I think this is going to be a pretty close matchup overall. What's your prediction here, Stick?
Yeah, it's really a tough one to call because Team Vale, their roster is a little bit more stable. Obviously, they've been preparing for their run towards Challenger League, and so they need to kind of work on all the priorities as far as that goes in settling into their roles, but also they need to know what the boundaries are going to be, how much they can show on the playing field today, knowing that the importance of this match could not be more versus Synthetic, who are bred and born a T3 team, and this is the competition that they are giving it all. To have a little bit of a lesser rating might speak a little bit more to their individual performances. We just simply don't have a whole lot of data so far. Na has been a very consistent entry in some of the times that I've seen him play for previous Synthetic rosters and lineup attempts. Now it seems he's moving more towards a flank watch role, letting the more experienced player of Freak take up the Zoe and Goyo position, while Mohesi files out that roster playing Ash and Valkyrie.
I mean, obviously, I think Synthetic has a pretty good shot here. They have a good lineup all around, and like you said, they're still trying to figure out what exactly is working out. For the Team Vale side, I mean, you obviously take a look at the top there. Psycho's going off with that 1.16 rating, just showing off in every account, and it's kind of what you expect, especially with somebody that's that entry player. You're really going to expect them to get a high, kill count, maybe try not to die as often. It does, have it in the end, but you can't leave out your support players. Marmalade, who's at the bottom there in his support with the lowest account, not really an issue because all you got to do is put down those hard breaches and help your teammates out, especially when you're playing with Toxic Babes in pocket. You can really help out your side.
Yeah, the smoke roll is such a very controversial position because if you're looking at Burnt Turkey and his experience playing on Redux Rising way in the past now, about 6 months previously, he was incredible on the smoke, and every time he picks up the SMG-11, it's just like attacker bodies fall, and there's nothing you can do to counter that. Looking at the predictions, I think this really shows the close nature of this game. 4, count them, 4 tie predictions, not including myself, but looking back on this one now as we see Synthetic with their new, kind of more shaky roster compared to the more set-in-stone Team Vale, I think there's plenty of evidence and reasoning to support that tie prediction.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot going into this, but we're going to actually real quick go over to the map bans after this prediction stage. And, automatically we can see just the thing that's sticking out to you is some of those go-to maps, like the newer one here, Chalet, is not going to be played out. And we are going to see Coastline and Villa be picked up. And Team Vale's going to start off on defensive first for Coastline, and that was what Synthetic wanted to pick out. What's your predictions in terms of these maps individually that these teams are going to play for?
Well, Coastline is definitely one that kind of strikes me a little bit off balance as far as Synthetic for the pick here. I'm hoping that maybe it's them bolstering their gun skill, bringing in players who know that they're confident in their entry, could allow them to play a little bit more consistently on a map like Coastline, where it's those first engagements, deciding whether it's the defense who fall and make a mistake or maybe the attackers who suffer from that save grievance that are the ones who lose out. With Coastline coming, I'm really glad to see this. Unfortunately, no Chalet just yet, but Coastline, it's a fun map, a lot of theatrics, a lot of very high-octane action, and we've got Villa filing it out as that second one, kind of the home of the roamer. I'm wondering how Team Vale are getting a little bit accustomed to that as they move on by.
It's going to be an interesting factor. The match will get started real quickly here. We can go a little bit more into the in-depth of the actual map and, of course, the operator ban phase as well. Coastline's kind of just a frag kind of heavy map. I mean, it's not something you see a lot of main lane strategy. Honestly, Hard Breachers kind of have a a weird role to fill when it comes to Coastline. It's not something that you're going to see a mainstream hard breacher really show up for themselves. So the ban phase would be kind of interesting. It's not going to be like a lot of your other maps. What do you predict here?
You know, I think you're right on that point about the hard breachers. They just don't have a whole lot of impact on Coastline. The only time I think you'll see that is like a Hibana or an Ace ban, very rarely. Vale are going to remove the Ash, which is, I mean, that totally just catches you off guard. For Coastline, we already have established that it's a fragger map, and Ash is that attacker entry, the spear point that you know is going to get in and disturb things with her R4C, but banning her outright, I'm not sure exactly what the idea going on is there. We'll have the Ace ban, but of that ranged hard breach being disrupted. One big thing as far as the attacker presence I'm hoping for in Coastline is the zero play. We saw in the, I think it was the Honor versus PDHM game, a lot of very creative zero plays, and because the map is so small, having that little burst of intel on the fly can be very helpful.
Absolutely, and entering quickly into a map like Coastline is really high importance, so having someone that can kind of gather information really swiftly and act on it swiftly is going to be really important. You may see Amaru's as well, because they can get to the rooftop, be able to cut off those hallways when crossing, say your defensive side's not able to set themselves up as quickly as they want to. You can catch a player off guard as they cross, and it could be really devastating, but we do see Malusi and Valkyrie being taken out. No information available for the defensive side, going to have to rely on other means, such as taking care of other drones, and of course, relying on Evil Eyes and the such to kind of help themselves out in that regard. But we'll have to see how it pans out. Synthetic's going to start themselves on attack. Whether we see that Zero or Maru will be left up, in the books. And for the defensive side, I already see a Maestro, so I'm already pretty happy. It does look like they're going to find a new way to gather that information, and the Evil Eye and, of course, the hacked drones look like what they're going to go for.
We have an Aruni in play as well, coming from Hypers, so getting a little bit more of that long-range aspect, perhaps bringing out the DMR. I haven't really had much of an opportunity to see what the effectiveness of Aruni's laser gates are so far, but the fact that they're indestructible and that you can continuously reactivate them as time goes by can be very frustrating. And for the attackers who are constantly looking for that first foothold, to have an Aruni gate out of nowhere reappear to stall and block your progress can be very frustrating. Looking now over towards the synthetic lineup, without the Ash on the board, there's going to have to be somebody else stepping into the role of the fragger. And with Nob bringing out the C7E, man, that's a gun that you don't want to get in front of. And the whole lineup for synthetic is really made up of those powerhouses that we constantly see for the battle to take control of the map. With the intel being brought by Vale, this seems to be kind of a, I would say, a real tug-of-war for the first round, and I'm curious to see whether Kitchen and Service is going to be dominated by Rice, going above for a penthouse take to get some of that vertical play.
Name something that goes together more than Jackal and Coastline. I guarantee it's going to be near impossible too. If you see Coastline, you're going to see Jackal. Just an absolute presence to worry about, being able to gather the footsteps. The hallways are so thin, there's not very many rotation routes. Jackal is a powerhouse on this map, just through and through. That's why you sometimes will see Jackal be banned out in favor, because they do have the C7E, and some people do like the PDW. It's a good weapon in its own right. C7E just a lot more damage, less arsenal, and it's something to keep in mind here. But you mentioned that Rice was going to be the player that was going to take over Penthouse and play that second floor. They removed him already, and that's a very nice first pick, especially in the fact that that's going to pace make this rest of this round, because now there's no one besides relying on breaching charge in the Hand of Freak to clear out that floor and get sightlines on the objective below.
Could be a pending engagement here for Afer. He'll round the corner, challenging, and he rips the head off of Mohesi. Another one peeks him, but Afer, he cannot be stopped. Vale on a rocket ride in this first round, but will finally settle the score as he responds, taking out the Jaeger who was so petulant inside of Billiards. A 2 versus 4. Sophia still up, a little bit of soft destruction in her pockets, and you could use those flat charges to open things up vertically, but without getting an additional pick here to move this into a 2-on-3, I'm not sure what much of a chance that the synthetic attack are going to have to progress towards the objective. The lucky thing is Poison's got frag grenades still left in his utility pocket, so he could hope to maybe toss one of those in, force a defender off balance, and make it to where the defense has to either stay on that frag grenade or challenge for the gunfight.
Time is going to be running thin. You thankfully did get a couple of your air jabs off. We do see one over on that Cool Vibe stairwell, and may that be enough to kind of save yourself? Probably not, because we do have the issue now. Psycho's hanging out inside of this bar room of the Sunrise Bar, and You got a player coming in. Freak will find out Frozen. Phenomenal frag to start off. The M702 finding success, and that evens it back out a little bit more. Now just a one-player disadvantage for your team. You're going to need to find more. Psychosis playing safe now, still behind Bar, and Sunrise has not been spotted out, and this could be devastating right now for Poison, who wants to step in. Psychosis finding 2 on a Poison, and Freak, nothing they can do. Vale will take round 1.
Seemed like Afer was a little bit surprised to see the Mozzie, or rather Rooney, just bounce from gunfight to gunfight, whipping around behind the Sunrise Bar. Vale with a real tremendous start, and props to Synthetic in their efforts to try and rip that one back, but when you have such a so difficult start, it's hard to get back on track, and you're constantly worried about the defensive forces, because when you're in a disadvantage, when you've already kind of been stalled out and you've been suffering from those opening duels, that's more and more time left off the clock, and even though Synthetic tried to approach that with a little bit of caution, there just simply wasn't enough gas left in the tank for round number 1. Vale come out on top. First defense, we'll see what they have in the next rotation.
How much utility did we notice from those Surya gates that came through? How much did they have a presence for the site? Now, it's really just a way to slow down the pace. In a casual match, you'll see drones come through to be the defining factor to kind of clear those out. You have to rely on other means, and quite frankly, looking at the side now for Synthetic, they're looking like they're going to have to rely on probably those flash grenades in the hand of Mo to get those off and remove those Surya gates from the opposition. And you die first, and you don't have that same thing when you lose Rice at the very beginning for that buck. You don't have a way to clear out that floor above, and pace was set in the get-go. Losing that first person, nothing you can do about it, right? And frankly, there's nothing you can do about the rest of that round, especially when the side of Vale is playing so sneakily inside a Sunrise Bar. Not much that can go off of it, but new hold, a new objective, hanging out onto the second floor now. They're going to look for an opportunity again. I think Frozen's looking for an opportunity for a peek as well. No one spawning on that ruin side necessarily, but more runouts look like they could come through. Sticula, what's your take on this objective in comparison with the others?
Well, there's a little bit less in terms of the opportunity to get vertical play, but obviously that didn't really matter much for Synthetic in the first round. Seeing as Vale, they look so comfortable surrounding the map. Their positions are obviously predetermined, and it's being communicated. That's the key central point here. They know what the weaknesses are, they've established these openings, and so they're spreading their manpower as far as you can. It's Freak who finds the opening word, shutting down the Jaeger of Afers, who was so powerful in that first round for the Jaeger to go down. This gives Synthetic just a little bit more reinforcement to know that what they're doing on Coastline could be working. And it's that same dilemma of whoever gets the first right foot set forward can often see a lot of success as a result in the avalanche that'll pile on down. We'll see more of the talk of Aruni Gates. One blocks the door here, and Rice using some hard breach utility. Buck obviously having the secondary breaching thing in his pocket so you can open up more of a sight line. With Ace Band and Buck being so helpful for the vertical play, having just a little bit extra in terms of the hard breach utility to open up that wall can really be a defining factor.
Ooh, we do see Rice will find a kill into Frozen, leading them Synthetic to now a 2-player advantage. Exact opposite of what we saw previously, where they struggled from the get-go to try and push forward. But right in this moment, it's just Vale trying to hold on, playing around, catch a couple players off guard. We know that Psycho has been doing to do that the entire time, but now trapped inside Hookah along with Marmalade, not too much they can do in the process of doing that. Although in hand will try to swing towards both hallways. Does have it reinforced to protect himself, but it'll be Mo who finds Psycho out, and you're now stuck as Freak finds Hypers, and it's a 1v5 as Freak will guarantee themselves their double kill.
Marmalade had so much to try and fight there. Even with the Alda, the weapon you might be able to barely have a slim chance of getting it done. Synthetic knew she was in there. They locked that round up, tied a flawless, quite the contrary to what we saw in round number 1 on Kitchen and Service, and it seems Team Vale are a little bit disappointed in what had gone down in that first round. They're looking to immediately repeat Hookah and Billiards to set the record straight and to define what it means to be successful on this site. The way that Synthetic attacked it was very textbook, but the thing was, across the board, it was Sin winning battles. They got all of the frags and never did it really look like Team Vale were able to set up for refrags. And that's the difficulty that you face on Coastline. Because the maps are so straight and narrow, those slim hallways as you deem them, there's just not often an opportunity to set up for a refrag after you've already lost that initial battle. And so for Team Vale, seeing the disappointing loss there, they might have to kind of wrench that aggression dial back just a little bit.
We do notice that the side of Vale is kind of looking like they're wanting to play a little bit off-site still. They do still have the Surya gates, which are kind of just a way to slow down. And, of course, the passive utility will also allow you to punch out walls like we do see being done on that Game Dream northern side wall between Hookah. And from the looks of the rest of the lineup, you're probably going to see Frozen on the floor below, as well as Psycho kind of taking that roam game. And you do have Nitro Cells enhanced for both of them. Frozen needs to give enough information to his team to maybe connect with a couple, but this map is thin, this map is small. There's a lot of room for Synthetic to completely decimate on their roam clear, and they've got roam denial and roam clear on their side. They've got Poison on Yana as a great way to be able to drone out with the Gemini drone and clear sights. They've got the footstep tracking from Na, being able to sniff out the opposition at every turn. And of course, you've got your air jabs that come from Mo, and another phenomenal way that's going to knock out the opposition quite physically and stop them from catching you on the flank. So Vale has their work cut out for them if they want any of those off-site operators or players to be able to find any frags for themselves going forward.
Synthetic in this attack are going to reorient themselves and go for pretty much the same strategy as we had seen last time with a VIP take. One thing that Vale could consider is to stack up a little bit more utility over by this side. Hypers at the main door is preparing for a run out. It looks like he might have had some intel about Poison's reverse repel out on the white window. And Melee it, jumping out, he tries to search for it, but getting a little bit hung up there with the pulse. No kill is garnered, and it's a 1-for-1 trade with the Jaeger going down, but also losing out on your realm clear. You don't have the Jackal anymore for Na, who's now dead. Though Synthetic, this could be a working point. Frozen still trying to gather a little bit more intel as much as he can with the cardiac sensor. The timing in this round for Synthetic, a little bit knocked off balance.
It's going to be difficult, like we said, the roam clear out for the count, and that was one of the big things that Vale needed to knock off the list. Nitro Cells being popped, player will get close to being knocked out. Rice taking damage from Frozen, who's able to catch him with the cardiac sensor, and now we're going to see that hard breach utility placed in the wall between here a VIP lounge and the hallway, able to gain themselves a little bit of sight line. Rice can get it done not just on the soft walls with the skeleton key, but also with that extra utility in hand. And now it's really up to Vale. Can they stay on site and stop the opposition from really impacting them out in terms of pincering them and keeping them trapped inside? Freak, who's holding inside of Aquarium, has a sight line towards that hookah wall, needs to act upon it, but he'll use a Gemini drone from Poison to scout out information. Notices one player behind, but Marmalade not far behind, finding one onto Freak, and already a 4v3. 45 seconds left, Psycho finding Rice. And they're trying to act on this, but Synthetic is falling apart. Player down, will be finished off. Poison falling. In the second will be picked up, this one by Psychosis, and Mo not lasting long enough.
Gotta give it to Vale in that round. They changed the narrative, and they completely reversed course from the difficult loss to now a valiant win. And it was all about really forcing Synthetic to kind of double check and double think. They weren't always confident in their map control. You saw the Buck, notably Rice, playing inside VIP. The longer he stood still and he waited, trying to hold the angle he had created with the secondary hard breach tool, it was sort of like kind of veritable quicksand. Because if you keep standing there and waiting, you know that the pulse is below. And with the cardiac sensor, a Nitro can always be at risk. And so the Buck was forced out. And because of that, they never had the crossfire. So when the 90 swing came, they were at a disadvantage. They were moving through no man's land. And I think that's really what broke things down for Sin in the first round, or rather third.
Yeah, they definitely need to get themselves going. We could see it go back to the 2-2 scoreline, but we're going to need to see a different style of attack. They now are forced to go back down to this kitchen objective to play on this first floor, which is where you wanted Rice previously on the skeleton key to show off, and Vale took that because right at the very beginning, you lose that. The Roni in hand will secure the kill, and there's nothing that Synthetic could do about it. So their number one priority at the beginning of this round is safety. Stay alive. Don't get spawn peeked. Don't let a run out catch you off guard. Stay focused, stay prioritized, and ultimately stay alive. So we're not going to see if they can take control of this second floor. They need to get into that master, need to take control of pit. The VIP is another good place to take control of that hallway section. They need to secure, and they need to stop the players of Vale who are heavily on the roam, like Frozen and Psycho we've seen already. They need to be able to clear them out, and again, you can't do that if you lose your roam clear. It's much too difficult, and you've got to be able to act upon that. Nah, who had lost at the very beginning before, can't lose him again. Rice can't lose him. We've already talked about that one. There's a lot that Synthetic needs to keep in stride, and again, another spawn pick attempted by Frozen. Vale's going out for the count.
Yeah, they really want to have that first word be in their pocketbook, and for Synthetic, they kind of recognize that spawning at ruins it's not safe. And I would recommend for anyone that plays ranked on Coastline, when you get this map, don't spawn at either of the south or north spawn points, because there's such an incredibly high likelihood that you might die out early. Psycho with a pre-placed Nitro will move up now to Hookah to see if it manages to find success. A little bit too slow on the detonation there. The Jackal manages to dodge past, now garnering control of Vase. In this round, last time we saw this go down, Aether was the primary working force, really preventing them from taking any solid control of Billiards. Nitro again will fly up. That's 2 for 2, and neither being successful so far. A huge waste of explosive utility.
Yeah, that's going to be devastating for the side of Vale. That's really what they're relying on when they have that pulse. The whole reason you bring that, it's 80% frags going off from below, 20% of that's just going to be information, and right now, all that's left is information, and when you think about information for your side, you're already rocking the Evil Eye, you're already rocking hacked drones from Mozzie, you already have those operators dedicated entirely for information, and now you can have another one that's just doing that role, which is not what you initially anticipated. So frags going through the floor, Rice from inside a penthouse finding out Aethers. Nothing they can do about that one now except try to find a refrag and secure themselves a tie up, but it's not going to happen. Na will secure the kill onto your Rooney, and while that's not that devastating, that is a Roni in hand that could have been a long-range weapon to secure yourself an extra kill.
With the on-site pressure mounting, Vale have recognized this, and they've sent Frozen away towards security, hoping to try and make a play that will earn Vale a little bit more purchase on the round. Marmalade, excellent job to fend off Freak, but they are so aware that every second they spend here is more time that Synthetic can use to position themselves closer and closer towards gaining eventual control of service. Poison, barbed wire in mind, he'll swing on through and manage to break an ADS, it looks like, going again. We get the first use of the Gone 6 here on Coastline as the Evil Eye. No intel to know about the plant other than Frozen, who still lurks with the cardiac sensor, but I'm not sure if the range is really going to work out for him. It won't matter. Frozen's gone now, just Psychosis and Marmalade. The Maestro tries to close in on the rotate, but she'll go down, and all of a sudden, it's just Psycho left. 14 seconds to go. Poison on the case. He's putting it down. Psychosis not in a position to deny this, and likely without intel to know about the plan. Closing in, watching the rotate. He'll move on through as he approaches the bathroom, but Synthetic, their post-plant positions are quite effective. Up above, contesting it vertically and continuing to push Psychosis further and further out of this round.
Not much they can do in this situation, sitting in that southwest corner of the service room, just trying to look for a possibility for a kill from below, and they're not giving him any opportunity. And an air jab as well will just be the nail in the coffin, as Rice will guarantee that kill onto Psycho. Synthetic will actually find success, and like we had already spoken about, almost entirely because of the fact they didn't lose an initial player, an important operator as well, on a spawn peak. So a good job by them to know that's coming and completely avoid that one out. Vale suffering when they're not able to make that impactful first frag.
We'll be taking a look at our first sign of the double bars, an objective with quite a storied history. For Coastline, generally the rotation is considered to be either kitchen or hookah, whichever one is your preference, is the primary or secondary side, and then the double bars as tertiary. We almost never see penthouse. I've had a couple of Asian matches that I've seen where they'll try to play penthouse, but it just almost never works because of the difficulty that you have playing at all horizontally. How are you going to win a site if you can't even play horizontally on it? You have to extend vertically, and even then, just because of the tentative nature, you're constantly worried about somebody sneaking in, opening up barricades, and disrupting your vertical presence. and then you kind of just suddenly forget about the vertical play, and the diffuser's down, somebody's out on a window, you're facing a Blackbird. Not gonna happen. For the double bar site, that's not so much of a problem. It's easier to extend over towards the kitchen side. Sometimes we'll see maybe a mirror window that's placed to watch service, so the attackers can't go for a direct east take, and instead are forced to focus more on coming into hookah to gain the vertical control, as well as establishing an opening by the south office.
Difficulty in terms of operator lineup I'm seeing from Vale. We're not actually seeing that Maestro we've seen previously. They're now opting to bring a mirror out, which is a good decision for this double bar side, being able to catch a sightline more to that south side and really cut off offices in its entirety without having to hold that southernmost bar. But Maestro situated inside, well, sitting in a pocket inside of the couch lounge section, could have a good sightline like we've already seen before on that second floor objective. We already do see a spawn peek from Vale. They're wanting to go for it again, and much like always, Synthetic will be able to avoid it at least for a little bit longer and not fall to that outside rush. Still trying to go for it as well. Just trying to spray and pray. It's really the name of the game, but like I'm saying before, Frozen will now place up that second Miro, trying to get these sight lines cut off, and you can see the one connecting the Sunrise and, of course, the opposing bar as well. They're just trying to find information, cut them off guard. This is where you usually see that Maestro I just spoke about, try to secure themselves up at the altar towards that hallway fire. But it's going to be difficult to see. What A1st is going to get Nomad, or sorry, air jabbed out, and is forced to kind of sit in pocket behind the plant.
Frozen was looking a little bit hyperactive there with the Nitro. Perhaps he was worried about suddenly an attacker appearing in the blue bar. It doesn't look like Synthetic have really progressed that far, but the vertical play, it's coming into the foray. This is the above area, just vertical to the bars, or rather the couches, where the mirror window is placed, has now been violently opened by Freak, opting to use those breaching charges to disrupt some of Vale's positions. For the Zofia, she'll try to swing down here by the Cool Vibe stairs. You've got Aver, who looks to be hiding sort of close towards jungle inside of the kitchen doorway, with another teammate supporting near the quad wall. So Vale have set up sort of these crossfires. They recognize that they're not going to be successful in contesting the vertical play just quite yet, with so much time remaining, and so they have to sort of play the horizontal game, force Synthetic to take somewhat risky gunfights that aren't totally 50-50, where Vale know that they have the positional advantage and they might have some little bit of intel. Mohesi, he's not being allowed to move down the Cool Vibe stairs, but Rice has solid a grip on security with Hypers gone. It's a 4v5.
Absolutely. 45 seconds on average for the clock right now, and quite frankly, you have a man advantage if you're Synthetic, and every time we've seen Synthetic secure that first frag, they already have a solid chance of going in and securing. It's too heavy of a frag-centric mag to leave that out. Blue bar, now Plant going down with the diffuser. It's poison. No one's watching that mirror black window to try and catch it off, and he'll step away with his life. Now they're trying to go up, and Mohesi will find out a first and a second onto Frozen, securing themselves for a 2v5, but the refrag from Marmalade will take out Mohesi, not allowing him for another to go for the triple. Nah, finding Marmalade. Psycho onto Freak, and now Psycho in a 1v3. 25 seconds in this post-plant scenario. Needs to decide how to take the aggression forward. Looks like a player on the prowl coming through this billiard side. Shots connecting between, and he'll win the fight. Psycho onto Rice, and it's a 1v2. Trying to get a sightline from above. Not looking good, and it does not look like Psycho is going to be able to secure this round. Just looking like they're rotating around, maybe going for an exit, but Synthetic will in fact take round 5.
Even get the extra kill to boot there for Na as he swings around the corner, moving Synthetic up now 3-2 on their attacks, and that's the problem of a failure to deny the plant on blue bar. That is nearly the sole win condition on that site. If the attackers get the bomb down, we already know and have established through pretty much every Coastline competitive match ever that playing inside of blue bar is not what you do. You play adjacent. You have somebody that lurks near the back of lobby and tries to contest through the openings made in the courtyard wall, where you sit in courtyard proper. You don't go into blue bar, and that's because the crossfires establish what is essentially no man's land. The attackers, if they get the defuse down, now it's their game. Now it's the defense who has to cross that deadly DMZ to try and go through, and the attackers were well prepared for it. Vale, they recognize you're not getting into blue bar. They tried to go for a top floor retake, and We see again Psycho hit some nutty shots that look like he might be able to make it winnable, but you're facing down a mountain of pressure for Synthetic, who have such a commanding man advantage in that round, and there's just not a whole lot of likelihood that you're gonna be able to bail yourselves out from that position, even for Psycho, who's one of the best players in Season 5.
Absolutely. We are opting to go back to the Maestro, picking that one up. Not going to see the mirror, despite it being almost a mirror match in terms of these objectives and ways that they look. But now you don't have to worry about that aerial play against you. You may have to worry about the players from below trying to clear out. Maybe it's Rice with a skeleton key going inside a blue bar and busting the floor below of that lounge section. Maybe you'll see some shots from, well, you can't see a shot from a reaching round as Ash was banned out, but maybe you'll see some Sophia impacts to clear out shields in certain locations. But one thing we're definitely going to continue to see is these roamers continuing to spread themselves very thin and trying to find that early pick. When Vale's able to secure 1 or even 2 at the beginning, they're almost guaranteed to win out the round, but Synthetic has done a phenomenal job of keeping themselves alive, well-oriented, and of course denying that roam clear, and by golly, they should be. I mean, they're bringing 3 people that are dedicated just to denying that roam, and it barely worked out at the beginning, but they've managed to find themselves a little bit in stride, and it is the last round before the half, so Synthetic wants to take this one up before they switch it over to the defense, but first things first, clearing this one and taking control of this penthouse and swinging east to west.
I like the fact that Afer has now gone below in kitchen to actually shotgun holes through the floor, because for both of these attacks, Rice has done the exact play that this should hopefully counter, where he'll move in with the secondary breaching tool, and he'll open up that wall so that you get a deep sightline that denies kind of more loose play towards the middle of the A site. Flashbangs going through, but it looked like Mohesi might have collided. That stun grenade at the corner. We'll send another one down, hoping to perhaps clear a little bit of utility, but Marmalade, she shuts down Freak. And we know what the narrative of this match is. It's the team that gains the opening frag that usually has a much better go of it in closing out the rounds. The question now shifts. How will Synthetic respond?
Well, obviously they're going to go for a Nitro Cell kill. That's Vale, though, who will secure it. Nah, having to say, nah, I'm out for this round. No chance now. Synthetic, 2 players down. It's going to be difficult for them to swing out. You do see a focus towards Aquarium, but Marmalade will deny it onto Mohesi. And now your last 2 players, they're both situated inside hallway looking for an opportunity. Poison does have the Gemini drone available to be able to spot it out and maybe flank out the opposition, leave them a little bit unawares, but it also is a little bit dangerous, because when you step inside of that, you can get rushed fairly quickly, and it can take a second or 2 to get out of that actual utility, but this bunker play in the section of Hookah will not matter, because Rice on the flank is heading through the hallway will fall. Poison's rotated back around towards Aquarium, stepping through will go prone, but it will not matter as Afer will secure the kill with the SMG-11. We saw a flawless round previously from Synthetic, and now we're seeing one from Team Vale tying it up here. It's 3-3. And now we're having it switch in the halftime.
Well, this game has certainly lived up to its reputation as an even match, with a flawless round apiece and a 3-3 half. I think the one question that has been in my mind so far this game is this Vale being better than Synthetic on their map pick, or, you know, being able to contest it, and then when we get over to Villa, is Vale going to walk away with the series in their pocket? Or is this the whole night just going to be round by round, where it's not decided by a team's preparation overwhelming one opponent? It's just the close nature of all of these gun battles. The frags have been fairly close, but it's all about that momentum. When it goes wrong, it really goes wrong. And the simple nature of Coastline feeds into that in such a degree that makes it very frustrating to play. And props to Synthetic for all of Vale's attempts to play aggressive, to search for that opening frag and to peek every door, window, wall they could. They were never able to really get that opening word in the aggressive spawn peek. Synthetic were still able to move over that in the blow by blow to secure map control, but things didn't always work out when it got down to that mid-round phase. Going to Hookah and Lounge, we'll see a little bit of a different idea for Vale as far as their attacks. No Jackal being brought, no Buck either. Instead, opting to keep the Iana and her replicator, but also now introducing the Flank Watch of Marmalade and Frozen on the Lion.
We do know that Synthetic, oh my goodness, nah, will deny Frozen any chance.
No,
Frozen's
Lion.
confused as well. Where did that come from?
Wow.
Well,
Oldest trick in the book.
Oldest trick in the book, yeah. Well, we know that the first team to get the frag, it's been the name of the game the entire time. Statistically, they've won it out, and Synthetic starting off immensely strong. Absolutely devastating. Even Frozen's, however, saying that you got the wrong person, but it's not going to matter. Mohesi onto Hypers. Freak following up onto Afers. And a run out from Mohesi will try to connect onto Marmalade, just barely missing it out, and will get the negative portion of the fight. And they're going to continue this engagement, continuing to swing aggressively. 2 players left for Vale, not looking hot for them. Synthetic have a absolute devastating role right now, trying to take out every single player as swiftly as possible.
That Nitro has really just pushed this round into craziness as Synthetic flex away from their site and more focus on playing this in a team deathmatch style. The aggressive maneuvering that they have so far gone has kind of forced Vale to be a little bit more passive. They're constantly searching for those opening picks because they recognize securing the 1v1 fights on the fringe of Synthetic's map control could be the determining factor. No matter on the reverse repel, but she's got 2 opponents to fight with. Marmalade will manage to isolate Freak. Mohesi, he goes down too. All of a sudden, Vale just got a little bit closer to making this one a possibility. Gas canister right in the face of the Zofia. She'll be forced away from the Cool Vibe staircase. The diffuser still there with Frozen's grave, exploded by the Nitro cell in spawn, hoping that that case still works after quite the battle it has endured.
Psycho, 10 kills so far, needs to find a few more to guarantee themselves any chance, but the player that is right sitting inside of this hallway who was initially behind a shield will have support from Poison's Toxic Babes. Time will be bought for Synthetic on this defensive hold. They've lost 2. You don't want to sit in this situation, and Marmalade and Psycho are doing everything possible to keep themselves in this fight. Nas going to hold a cheeky angle behind the actual objective, waiting for Marmalade to initially push in and fight, but will not matter. Na finding the kill with Aroni, and the second onto Psycho, and Synthetic will win their first defensive round, and quite frankly, I think we all predicted that after the initial first few seconds when it actually started.
Yeah, you don't start a round like that and have the audacity to just over peak into a position where a Nitro spawn peak, that is the moment where you just say like, all right, we've got this one in the bag. Let's go ahead and close it up. Vale trailing now. Synthetic move ahead, and the aggressive plays, the high level of energy that is coursing through this map has so far split across both of the sides. For round number 8, I'm sure Synthetic are going to try to maybe, I would imagine, not going to go for that same Nitro cell, but perhaps they could look at situating Rice or Freak on another more aggressive angle to try and double down on that. But for Vale, after losing your early man to a Nitro, you're gonna be prepared for all types of craziness and out of the blue plays. They're not gonna let that slip again, and if they do, I would be quite shocked.
Stick, you mentioned it earlier, actually. You talked about how it's difficult to spawn on half of these spawn points for Coastline because it's just walking into the hellfire of bullets that the opposition's waiting for you with these angles, and you know, that one which was originally considered safe for Vale, they're like, okay, we can head this direction. Obviously not, so now they're relegated to choose one spawn point that's safe, and I wonder if Synthetic have an answer for that as well. Maybe they'll have something in that direction, maybe a time and wait it out, toss something as well, or maybe just a cheeky angle, because we've been seeing it the whole time. Synthetic are on a tear, a tangent, the aggressive nature. They may be on the defense, but they're definitely looking like they're on the offense.
Oh yeah, they're not waiting for Vale to come to them. They're deciding where the gunfights happen, and for the defense, they almost always do that, but not in the way that we see here. They're not deciding to take fights outside of the map, which has been, I would say, more a Vale's storyline, and I think round number 8 will tell us a little bit more about kind of the pattern, and to see if this is a cycle of behavior, that the aggressive play is going to continue round by round, or if that was just a little bit of flair for Synthetic to kick off the first round, to get the leg up so that they can get the ball rolling, and that they don't start immediately to lose the 3-3 split. Got control of bar. Vale posturing forward. Mohesi playing a little bit loose. He can contest kind of the main lobby. Oftentimes we'll see sort of this all or nothing play with the mirror window where you set it up to be open, and if your defense loses control of the map, If your Jaeger, who would look to be kind of roaming sort of by the main lobby, if he goes down, you are not so confident to play close with that mirror. However, Vale haven't really addressed the issue of security or lobby control so far. Their attack near entirely made up of this west side presence.
They're still trying to bust out that floor. Na is actually going to go ahead and clear it and maybe gather some sightline, but players cutting up cool vibes. Freak will deny Psycho, but there's a second player as well who's stepping up and catches Freak off guard. It'll be Affer, who also falls as well to Na, and that players know Na will secure themselves another kill. Double now for their name, and even Poison saying he respects Aver. Nothing that they can really do in that situation. It's a 2v4, and Vale, again, player disadvantage. They have completely different lineup. They're trying to step in with this Jackal, be able to catch out the footsteps, maybe catch a player's position and catch them off guard, but really and truly, you still have two air jabs in the pocket of Marmalade. Maybe this is why you're struggling to deny Synthetic on this heavy roam and this heavy aggression they're bringing forward. You're not using all of your utility to your advantage. We saw Synthetic come out with a Jackal, some of them come out with a Nomad, some come out with a Iana. They had everything in their books to deny that aggressive playstyle, and Vale has not yet opted to bring that themselves.
Curiously, the blacktop angle not fully open. Marmalade trying to fight so many different enemies and accomplish a whole foray of different tasks at once. He'll find a first frag, tries to dodge down, melee the barbed wire, but in the meanwhile, we'll see another instance of that Roni ripping through, attacking members. Synthetic now on the doorstep of match point for Coastline, their map pick. Just a reminder for all of you who may be tuning in for SCS as this very first time. If you get to match point, if you secure 6 rounds on a map, that guarantees you at least 1 point in the best of 2 system. And for Vale, even if Synthetic win this and get on to match point, they'll lose out on the opportunity to take a full 3 points, but I think that narrative is more stacked towards this being Synthetic's map and them having the opportunity. They want the 3 points here because of the difficulty that we mentioned in the playoffs race earlier. As many points as possible that you can get from this best of 2, you're gonna need them.
Yeah, they're both not in a hot position whatsoever. Vale's in a little bit worse of one, so Synthetic taking this lead here could be that final nail in the coffin. But Synthetic's not out of the hot streak either. They need to win it by a pretty good margin to guarantee them going forward, and quite frankly, they're setting a good precedent for that one going forward. Now up, like you said, on the doorstep of that match point scenario, and they're going to opt to go down to the double bar objective to try and play this one out. And they're not going to go for a normal kind of thing I was talking about earlier in that bunkering inside of that lounge. They're going to go for mirror once again. So they're going to situate themselves, putting those black mirrors in a situation to hold blue bar. It didn't work for Vale, as Synthetic was able to secure a position behind bar, get the diffuser placement, and Psycho was not able to clutch it out. But in the end, Synthetic, they know it worked for them, and now they're going to try and stop that working for Vale. It's just a matter of who gets that first pick. It's been what we've been talking about the entire game, and I'm sure it's not going to be the end of it anytime soon.
Carefully keeping an eye on all attempts to maybe go for a spawn peek. We see Rice kind of wiggling around on the floor there inside kitchen, looking through the drone hole to try and perhaps deny some of the intel economy a little bit early, and that's not something we've had the hugest opportunity to talk about. For Vale, they've managed to persevere past the prep phase and have all 10 drones remaining. I'm very thankful for that, because when you see drones die during the prep phase, it's such a waste. It doesn't really do you much. You can find out the objective. You don't need to know the operators, because you can just compare with the prep phase. Freak has already been forced out from the vertical play. A little bit of a contrast to what we had seen in previous rounds. The Wamai in no healthy position to continue contesting up inside of Vase. Vale will look to take that control. Last time we went to the double bars, it was quite the nightmare for the defense, because the attackers had actually gotten open the blue wall, and the courtyard pressure was not meaningful enough to deny for the cross coverage. That's something that you should definitely keep your eyes on. If we have attackers in lobby, we're cutting off courtyard rotations, the difficulty in denying the plant will be even more so.
We do notice that for Team Vale, who is able to secure a kill off of Hypers and a Poison, they opted to go for the Iana this time around. They're not going to bring a Jack up, but they're trying to find a new answer to that aggression, and it has worked out for themselves, using the Gemini as a way to catch out Freak, who was that player that they were struggling against initially, forcing him off the top ground, forcing him out of plant, and obviously now forcing him into Sunrise. And he's going to be a difficult situation, especially with the fact that the roof is basically non-existent butter to the hammer in hand of the opposition. But Rice not going to go out without a fight, will run out from outside of service entrance and take out Afers, and it's putting themselves up for a pretty high precedent. Vale needs to continue to fight this one out. It's been tied back around. I think I just heard a Gon 6 go off, and not sure exactly what it went, but an aid will be tossed, yoinked by an ADS, and Mo Essie really struggling now inside of this pocket corner.
This is gonna be his teammates keeping him alive here, Psychosis. He'll charge forward. A second kill for the Zofia. Vale a monstrous advantage. And Synthetic, with not much they can do from preventing the case going down. Na has so many different fights that he has to take all at once. Frozen with the diffuser now down on the ground, the leverage, it's all in the pocket of Vale. Rice, he's gonna have to attempt the retake. He finds Hypers, guns down the sledge on the Cool Vibe stairs, but 3 attackers, they know what their advantages are and where they need to play. Crossing the corner, a replicator sprints on through, but Rice, he just cannot find Psychosis. Taking him down below half, it won't be enough. Vale finally stop the bleeding as they secure round number 9.
Is this a bandage or is it a full wrapped wound here? The question still remains. Vale, who's able to pick themselves up a round on the attack, finally will need to continue to do so to keep Synthetic off. It is just a 1-round differential now at this point, but Vale has shown a lot of struggling in their side, and we're going to go up to the hookah and billiards room objective, and Synthetic has a pretty good job so far holding this one out, and from the looks of what I've seen previously, Poison, who's been situating on that smoke, has done a phenomenal job all around in this match of securing and holding out where needed. But it's been Freak on that roam, who's had a phenomenal game, denying any sightlines, did get shut down by the Ayana previously, and it looks like we're not going to see Vale opt for that. They brought the Jackal, now switching it over to the Capitao, and I fear for the Team Vale side, they found the answer to that aggressive nature of the defenders and clearing them away from those roam positions, and they've completely opted for none of that now. So now they're going to have that Capitao be able to smoke off sight lanes, firebolt an area, and keep a player out. Probably going to push in through hookah and onto that veranda balcony side. Will it be enough, or will they step inside of the building and be relegated to a death pool as Synthetic will continue their spree of roam clear and roam denial? It's all in the books. Vale have no answer so far in this lineup.
Seems the defense really cannot get a break from the double bar site, neither winning either round so far that we had seen. Hookah has been good in some rounds for the defense, and in others, we've seen the attack manage to systematically pick it apart. I think the best way to go about this is to attempt just kind of a traditional VIP take. Hookah pushes are not viable. We don't see them really at all. There is kind of a little bit of a focus on sort of an individualized Aqua push, but I think it just makes more sense to open up the VIP wall, hold down that crossfire so you can deny a retake, and it gives you so much more leverage as an attacker to get the plant down when you're not worried about a defender sprinting through that double door and tossing whatever utility or bullets your way. For the attackers, I think we should probably go for that, but maybe Vale are going to bring something that is a little bit more unexpected. Good sportsmanship there in chat for Frozen. Freak, he gets the opening say in this round. And the Capitao, whose effectiveness we doubted, will not get a chance to show his worth.
Absolutely unfortunate for Vale, losing that one out. You needed those bolts to be able to show themselves, and that's kind of been the name of the game. Utility usage throughout, while getting that opening frag. A-First just walking into that. Well, getting an opening frag is necessary, as it is what's setting kind of the pacemaker of the round. You need to be able to use all of your utilities so that even if you may pass or go beyond the grave, your team still has those available. So air jabs need to be consistently placed in right positions. Marmalade doing a good job in this round, but it's going to be Hypers who finds the kill first for Vale. Refragged now will be downed and cleaned up by Rice. Poison was the man who fall for Synthetic, and it's now a 3v4. A minute and a half left in the clock, and Psycho's looking to play aggressively, but nah, from inside of the courtyard, finding a long shot to the main hall. Psychosis will fall, and it's a 2v4.
And admittedly, a little bit disorganized there in the push for Hypers and Psychosis, who were working as individuals, and you never want to go for that in Siege. Team Vale's biggest hope can be to try and play as a team unit. Marmalade will move in, attempting to plant. A Nitro stops that dead in its tracks, and as Afer tries his hardest to play out on that window, eventually he'll go down to Nah for Synthetic, who win Hookah, and now move up to match point on their pick.
Absolutely devastating if you're Vale. Now, it is the map pick of Synthetic, like we've already mentioned, so it's not the strangest thing to see this, but Vale desperately needed to take this W and get these points. They still have a chance to get a couple, like you had mentioned. If they can make it in overtime, they'll get that 1 point, even if they do lose it out. They desperately do need to just get points under their belt. It's going to be difficult for either side because both are bottom of their group stage and looking hot in the hot seat, I should say, for both sides. Synthetic trying their hardest to score the max amount of points as possible, but the next map's going to be very different as we head over to Villa when that comes. Can Vale show themselves and show why they picked that map, or is Synthetic going to find another answer and continue this aggressive nature on both sides of the field?
For Neo and PDHM, who are currently sitting at 3rd and 4th place respectively, what they're hoping from in this match is full overtime as much as possible back and forth across both maps. They want to wear out both of these teams, and they want to deny them from making as much progress as possible. Currently, Synthetic only trail Project Neo by 2 points, so theoretically, you can take this and use it as your opportunity to move forward and to try and reclaim that post-plant, or rather, not post-plant, that postseason position. Another thing to think about is the future of Synthetic, who face Project Neo down the line. There's a lot of uncertainty that could go down in whether, we might build up this narrative that one team is ahead of the pack and is guaranteed for playoffs, but they sort of fall down in these last 2 weeks and lose out to a superior opponent. That could mean their playoffs hopes are completely done for.
Going to be a hard-fought battle, but you take a look already. Synthetic kind of opting. It's going to be Freak hanging out near the Hall of Fame side in between both, taking a shot towards the opposition, rappelling up onto that ledge. Not connecting with enough shots, and unfortunately for them, it's not going to guarantee them an initial kill, and Freak's going to continue to peek for it, however. They have or are trying to take control of that penthouse room. You see the players breaking out that hatch inside of bathroom, and Freak managed to find two! Hypers and Psychosis on a nice flick shot will secure it. Synthetic already up 2 men. Psycho even saying, nice shot, good. Very nice team play. Respect coming across the board. It will be a frag from the backside. Frozen will find it from that hatch up on the roof, and it looked like almost like Freak could find another kill because there was another player rappelling on that ledge.
He'll be denied, and at least now Vale have control of the top floor, but they look a little bit shaken. Freak was playing incredibly aggressive, taking any battle that he saw fit, and almost was able to make it work. Mo playing so passive to Nitro. He's tossed it up. Nobody in position quite yet for Vale, but if they move on over, Mo could have a huge opportunity. Habana and the Sledge, both of them playing up on the bed, not wanting to risk the possibility of being blown to smithereens by the Mute's explosive. They'll manage to dodge past the Nitro as Mute finds no success, but as they continue to work their way around on the top floor to begin the process of opening the vertical play, that's more and more time wasted that chips off the clock for Team Vale. And when it comes down to the execute, there just might not be enough left to overpower Synthetic, who are at 4 versus 3.
Team Vale doing their hardest. Frozen clearing out that floor like we know that Sledges will do, and it does force Mohesi out of their initial position, and unable to get that Nitro Cell kill. Good play by Vale to stay up on the bed to deny that, but it's tied back up. Vale not out of this fight just yet, as Frozen will find an and it's swiftly a 3v3. 40 seconds are left in the clock. Mohesi now sitting inside of the bathroom side of toilets. The flash grenades will be thrown from that outside eastern ledge, and Aver is looking for an opportunity to try and find the kill, but it won't be him. Frozen will find it as Mohesi is forced out of that toilets as well, finding themselves a triple kill. It's Frozen who's keeping them in this match so far, and he's going to continue to try doing so. There will be an air jab that goes off. It'll catch Rice off in the flank, and now that position's kind of known. The IQ has come through, but they'll have an opportunity with the man advantage to swing in, but it'll be Afer who finds the kill into Poison. A 3v1 as the diffuser will now be planted down, and Rice all the way over on the second floor, trapped. is just going to go to try to find Frozen. Has given away his position. Will swing wide, finds him, and now a 2v1 as they step forward in a post-plant scenario.
Rice, he's got so many battles that he needs to take, and he has to play this quite precariously. Habana up on the cool vibe stairs, but she'll give away in transposer position. Rice, he'll give chase. Moving up now, the Habana continues to try and dodge away. She might not totally be aware of this. Flashbang is sent further, delaying this round. 18 seconds to go. DJ booth corner is not cleared, leaving Afer the opportunity to swing around, and for Vale, who hang on in just one more round, now moving up to a match point of their own with the opportunity to secure 1 point by forcing us into overtime.
Not just a phenomenal decision there by Vale and Aver to step away from the situation and predict that the actual roam and, tunnel vision coming from the opposition to try and clear that player out, just chasing and giving chase to the opposition, but also to run to where an air jab was in place, and phenomenal decision making. That shows team coherency in the fact that you know where your go-to air jab place or your nomad is going to place those and how you can effectively use them. You don't get to see that too often. They're usually just kind of a passive thing. We had seen at minimum 2 air jabs go off, one over on the white stairs near that entrance, and of course one right there inside that door room into the DJ VIP room. Quite frankly, phenomenal positioning from Marmalade in placing those, which is something that we have been struggling to see so far coming into this. We had noticed early on in Vale's initial attacking rounds, they were dying or not using the utility enough and to not enough success, and it's the complete polar opposite, a very polarizing effect as we get later and later into this one. Vale doing their damnedest to stay in this, not wanting to be relegated to a quick and easy out. Synthetic are having their work cut out for them here on their second chance of match point.
One final opportunity to get the full 3 here. Otherwise, Vale are going to look to make us wait just a bit longer before we go ahead and see Villa. Echo being brought up by Rice. So we have a full stack of intel. You don't see a whole lot of Echo play recently, but given the fact that he has a deployable shield, that he's got a decent mid-range gun in the MP5 SD, you can sort of play him as kind of your alternative to your on-site anchor. Have him sit in the corner, use the Echo drones, and perhaps they're able to deny the plant, but Hyper's made the perfect decision, immediately swapping from the operator he had selected in the pick phase onto the IQ, and now the Echo drones, they might not even be a factor that we get to analyze.
Need to worry again about the utility. They have to get these actually expended and in good use. Marmalade's done a phenomenal job of that, already expending one of them in position, and Hypers is looking on the rooftop. This is the position I talked about previously. You can see Arunis take that swift angle, and while we are seeing most of the aggression will be coming from Synthetic on their defensive side, I'm a little shocked to see Vale not opting for it as well. With how heavily Synthetic is roaming around, taking that aggressive positioning could be exactly what you're looking for, and now freaking a bad position in Penthouse, caught off guard from 3 angles as they step in from the outside balcony, and of course rotating on that big side window. Not very many positions that he can get away from here, and it's looking like they're acting upon it. Freak finds Psycho and a nice frag, but the shots from behind from the outside window to this west-east side will absolutely devastate them. A 1-for-1 trade-off, and it looks like Vale will secure control of Penthouse.
Even though Freak tried his damnedest to prevent them from getting in, the Vigil only scored 1 frag, though taking down Psychosis, a fairly even trade for 2 of the biggest hitters that we've seen so far. Hypers has sort of spotted out a cache of utility stacked up at the service doorway, ADS's Evil Eyes and the like, preventing a solid plant and control to be taken. However, Synthetic, for their top floor hold, they haven't completely given things up. Jaeger's rotating to come in from luggage, but Mo's gone as well now, and Vale have a little bit of safe coverage. Looked like the player inside Theater was being cautious and watching out for the opportunity of not to swing around the corner. Now Poison is retaken upstairs as well. He'll try to divide the attention as he breaks a drone at the 90 corner. We'll see the swing out. Marmalade denies Nas' flank, and now Vale look to be in the best position to force us into OT that they've been in all match. Poison still off-site, trying to deny this roam. But Vale, they have 35 seconds. If they make a play, it's going to have to be hastily constructed. And Poison, he's still lurking. Vale might not be aware totally of this off-site pressure, but in the previous service round, they still managed to clutch up in their attack with a man disadvantage. Afer, he sticks the plant, even as his teammate drops on by in the Echo Drone. There's the impact. Rice is going to force Afer off the first plant, denying it. The drone will move on through the yokai again, but it looks like he's out of utility. Shot through the wall, they deny the plant. 10 seconds to go, they're gonna have to recover the case. It's in possession for Marmalade. His Hypers will drop on down, but Rice, he's still got the drone left in his pocket. It'll move on through, but it gets broken in a destitute play by Hypers for the Nomad, who might just barely manage to get it off for so many attempts. Rice, he'll close in on the door. He spots one player behind the wine bar, but still, with so little HP, with a mediocre weapon against his own shield, it's Marmalade who closes it out in regulation. Vale push us forward to OT.
Guaranteeing themselves at least a number of points, right? Even if you lose, you do get that one, and quite frankly, both sides are needing points to come into this one. They both need it. Vale does need them more, so while they're not guaranteed to get that quick 3-0, they will get themselves a couple onto the board no matter what. Vale with a very nice effort there on the attack. Synthetic very closely denying that one out. My honestly, the best play in that entire round was the ability to spot out that yokai drone and clear it before it could deny you of the plant and eventually force you into losing that round because you are forced off of the actual plant in the overtime of the round. So phenomenal play by them. And now we're going to have to see if Vale can find an answer to Synthetic on the attack, because now they switched back over to the defense. Vale struggled here. It did go to the 3-3 at halftime, which was an important factor for them, but it was still Synthetic mostly having the lead after the first round and was able to secure themselves a little bit more of an advantage. Vale did find the answer in the later halves of their defense, but is it been long enough for them to forget it, or will they have it all still in the book? Synthetic are going to have to come out strong, still opting to go for that Jackal Nomad, but they're no longer bringing Yana. They will bring another Hard Breacher of the Habana on Poison.
Sort of keeping in mind the denial of the hard breach effort on the two VIP walls, because last time we had the, I want to say it was the Smoke, who went below with the shotgun and opened up holes to make sure that if Rice tried to use his secondary breaching tool to open that wall, it was going to come at quite the cost, and it would have been an incredibly risky play. They have a Habana being brought this time, introduced by Poison for, correct me here, Infernosis, I feel like the first time that we've seen her being brought in near the entire match, but having Habana a little bit more of an opportunity to open up those safe and bunkered walls, revealing members of Vale and compromising the integrity of their bomb site.
Yeah, Habana just a pretty good operator all around the board, especially when they got that slight rework to the Keratos pellets, but it doesn't seem to matter on this objective, and especially on this map where you're not really going for hatches that often, and it's not really that pivotal focus. Instead, when you're going to bring someone like that ranged hard breach, you're going to try and put them through Skylight 9 times out of 10 and maybe bust out that reinforced wall that's inside of that games or lounge section of that objective, and hopefully catch some players off guard and force them out of those key positions. However, we haven't seen that necessarily been acted upon yet. Not too sure where Poison is situated themselves currently, but it looks like Hypers will find a kill from upstairs of Hookah, connecting down inside a Sunrise Bar to Freak. And now you're tied again at a 4v4, and Psycho's still on the prowl with a Roni. He does hear shots coming from down below in office. They've rotated around as well, and they're just trying to find themselves a few more securing kills to take this lead advantage and this man advantage, because they didn't win the first frag.
The one major problem here is now with Freak gone, you've lost pretty much the majority of your soft destruction when it comes to breaking down those Evil Eyes. And so the intel is going to persevere a little bit longer, and the death of Freak has really put this round for Synthetic in a bad way. Hyper's still in battle, trying to play inside Hookah. He's finally shut down as Rice will move on to put this back in a 3v3 perspective. With the vertical floor entirely broken inside of the B side of Hookah, we have to see the defense hold this a little bit more passively. Pings go out onto the mirror. They're trying to get it popped and open, but as Psycho does that, he also takes the risk of a slight bit of damage coming out of the skeleton key of Rice from below. If the Buck moves forward to continue creating these openings, there could be a real problem for the players who are tucked up close at this wall. Marmalade will shut down your Buck, finally removing the full barrage of that soft destruction, but you've still got Poison and Mo left on the field against the smoke canisters, the shotgun, the SMG-11 in close proximity, not to mention the Alda that can rip and tear through the entirety of your attacking composition. This will be quite a pivotal moment.
You are seeing finally that hard breaches from that Hibana finding utility and usage, but Diffuser being planted, could see a rush coming around. Afer trying to catch him out, not noticing the player actually will find it as Marmalade will secure the kill, but Mohesi in a good position. He has put himself back up to the rooftop, and while a Toxic Bait will be tossed, it's really just a sightline denial at this point in time. Mohesi holding onto this outside hookah deck. Will try to stay into the fight, connecting onto one, but will fall to Afer, only getting the consolation prize of Marmalade in the process, but Team Vale will win their first overtime round on defense.
Such a close effort there, and triumph for the Smoke as the Maestro fell. He swung with the shotgun that lended the final blows to his team, and they move forward. Now for Vale, who take the lead in what I believe is the first time they've held it since round number 3 on Hookah, putting themselves ahead and challenging the storyline of Synthetic in this map so far. Will we see Sin be able to get something done and secure a win in their pocket for the defense? I'm not so sure, but we're away from the troubling sights of double bars and kitchen service, which were both failures in the second half for Synthetic, to the stronghold of hookah and billiards that consistently Sin were able to take home, and in the first attempt at this site for the Sin defense was championed by the fundamental Nitro Cell launched right into the poolside spawn.
How can we forget that? I sure hope that's actually caught on the replay and we have that coming through, because that was such a phenomenal way to start off their first defensive round. I really hope we do see something like that again. While it happened so long ago that maybe Team Vale is not actually ready for that coming through. It's been quite a while. Maybe they've forgotten it, because they seem to have forgotten to use a lot of their utility on their attack. They've done a little bit better of it, and they do actually secure that defensive round win, and which is a pretty important one for them, because Synthetic has struggled in their most recent defensive rounds. They lost 2 back-to-back, and it gave Vale the opportunity to bring it to overtime. So Team Vale looking to end it all right here and take it and give themselves that point advantage, but Synthetic will have to opt to try and find an answer as well. Freak's going to go back to that Vigils, that really heavy roam game we saw. And you actually do take a look. Nah is looking like we aren't going to see that Nitro Cell. Psychosis could walk right into it, tosses it, will be busted, but way too far out. And thankfully for Psychosis and for Team Vale as a whole, he gets away scot-free with his life still intact.
And imagine the sorrows if that Nitro had landed, Psycho, the Zoe, the playmaker to go down. That would have been disaster in the ranks of Vale to have suffered so early on. They managed to dodge away from the Nitro, but for Synthetic, they lose out on one of the Nitros. Only Mo, who's got one left, but we haven't seen really the hugest use and success of the explosives. There was a few opportunities, specifically I remember on Kitchen and Service, where denying the vertical play was attempted by the Nitro. So far, other than the time where the Nitro was used outside of the map, I don't particularly remember any huge success. It's such a dirty play. Psychosis through the bullet hole, he rips Mo apart.
Absolutely disgusting, and that's exactly what Vale needs to do. Like we've been saying the entire goddamn game, who gets the first frag typically wins it. I think we noticed that Synthetic, who had gotten the first frag in the round before, did actually lose that, so that was kind of that strange situation. Not entirely what's been going, staying away from the status quo so far, but statistically, Vale putting themselves in a very good position, and they've got a heavy set of frag-centric weapons on their side. You're bringing out Ying, which is that one-man army that can just devastate the retinas of the opposition. No ward on the side of Synthetic as well to kind of save their eyeballs out, hoping and praying to rely that your ADSs are in good positions to zap those out in play, but a nade now hooked up by Hypers will throw it, will get eaten as it crosses the threshold, but Rice not going to go out without a fight. Rice will find Frozen in securing themselves a tied man advantage here with 1 minute left on the clock.
60 seconds to go in what could be the final round. If Vale are able to push themselves over the line, they've lost their key, their most important tool to gain entry onto the site. Rice, he'll whip around the corner, ripping the head apart for Frozen, or rather Hypers. Vale, down in the man advantage without much control of the map. It's Afer and Marmalade who compose the majority of the attackers' forces, but they're not getting in without trouble, as the Jaeger Rice feels free to continue peeking and swinging back and forth. He's shut down for his efforts. Marmalade will move on through the defuse. It's first attempted. 20 seconds to go as the toxic canister fills the air at the threshold of the double door. Freak on the vigil. He'll go for the swing. This might be unexpected. In fact, it is. Afer, he'll sprint challenge in. A second for Freak now. Only Psycho remains, and Vale are forced out on the hookah site. Synthetic push us forward to another bracket of OT.
Absolutely devastating, just straight through. We're going to go to the final one here. A great game to start off here. Vale and Synthetic neck and neck, and it's such an important one for both of these teams. They are giving it absolutely their all. And if you take a look at the chat, I don't know if you actually know this is a current thing since it's just been super recent. Knife peeking. Have you heard about that one? They're asking it. It's so finicky, so weird, and it's absolutely dirty. I mean, it is disgusting to behold. If you don't know about that, scroll through a Twitter feed about R6, and you will find it quite swiftly, along with the recoil bug that's going around in the current season. Knife peeking is just devastating. It is just awful to look at from both sides, guaranteeing yourself that peeker's advantage to a whole nother level.
Well, with the back and forth, closely contested nature that we've seen so far on this map, in fact, both of the halves going 3 for 3, I have a feeling that the infinite overtime here could stretch out for a little bit longer than perhaps the regulation OT of 15 rounds. Synthetic, they're able to win some defenses, but getting over the hump on this site particularly, if this were to be their defense, has been particularly difficult, even despite some incredible efforts by Freak to shut down the entrance of Vale when it comes down to his play with the K1A on Vigil. For Vale, in their defenses, it's been a little while since we've had a deeper dive into what this site looks like and what we might expect to come on through. For service, I imagine we'll see a heavy extension up on the roam. You don't need my expectation to figure that one out, though, as we have ADSs, reinforcements, mute jammers, and now a Mira window to further bunker down this hold. More utility even than Synthetic bought.
Taking a note straight out of Synthetic's defensive side, they're bringing an Echo as well. They're going to hope for that Yokai drone, and one issue that I think is going to be pretty pivotal is the difference between those players who are bringing that one out. Marmalade, 14 kills to their name. Can they stay alive long enough, however, to actually find use for that? And currently, from the looks of it, it might be a little bit difficult, as Poison, who's holding out on this main entrance side, could actually catch that player off guard who's situated behind that front desk. It's going to be a tough-fought battle. Synthetic need to find the right way to entry inside, and this second floor is being held with a tight grip from Vale. They're doing everything in their power to secure it. And when you run an Aruni as well to slow down the pacing, those Surya gates are devastating to try and look into, and they just remove the utility in the hands of that Synthetic side, as well as Aper removing the head of Freak.
Jaeger continues to play excellently here at 90, knowing that the attackers, this is such a challenging position to attack. You can't go below, there's absolutely no vertical play, and so your primary use and the way you're going to attack this is to go for a crossfire, have a player peek through the luggage door. That's being stopped by Hypers, who was playing loosely at the bottom of the white stairs, but now it looks as though the mute has somewhat given it up. Perhaps they're trying to fake this here and make it seem as though they've all rotated back, when in fact Aver is still playing in the 90 hall, but instead on the jump up angle. Not one we see too terribly often, but this could be the sneak play that makes the difference. Rice will move on through, he opens the hallway, Psychosis goes down, but Afer shuts down the buck in the very same moment. But now he's cleaned up the Jaeger. The control of the top floor seems to be relinquished with 60 seconds to go.
You cannot get more down to the wire than tied again, tied neck and neck, and the actual lineup being tied neck and neck. 3v3 with 48 seconds left on the clock. and Synthetic need to find an answer, and they're hoping they can. Mo Essie, sitting on that cool vibe stairwell, knows the players are nearby, and Frozen does have a nitro as well. Could actually opt to blow this one out. Rips and dips. Will it actually connect? No, it will not. Thankfully for the side of Nah, they will be situated up on bed, and on the looks of it, Frozen is situationally aware of that. He tosses it in a way he can shoot to that bed side, just not enough to connect or deal enough damage. Poison has a nade, will use that as a way to clear the barbed wire. They're looking to get a plant scenario going down, but Frozen's still in a position to deny with the Vector in hand. Players stepping through, flash grenades being tossed as utility must come out. Close play by Hypers, Poison finding one, but refract by Hypers again, and it's going to be Marmalade to find Poison, a 2v1, 3 seconds of the clock. Nah, basically given no chance here, spraying across, it does not matter. Team Vale will win round 15, and they'll take this map 1, and it's not even theirs.
That was a little bit of, I think, miscommunication on their part. They thought that it was over, but we're going on a little bit longer. Of course, SCS in its, how would you call that, copyrighted or trademark? I think is the word I'm looking for. Trademarked. In the SCS trademark match format, we have the Infinite Overtime Best of Twos, which is probably the best format that you can come up with, and we could be going all night with the way that this one is back and forth, is neck and neck, and what we might see going next to the second map of Villa when that eventually does come around. But now, it's a win on the defense. Probably my expectation. I think if you did the math, it has been just slightly edged out for the defense. It looks a little bit better overall in not only the round wins, but also the way that the rounds are won, in the competency that we see them won, because the defense get to decide where the opening aggressions or the opening engagements happen, and they kind of get to decide, Scott, how aggressive those early battles are going to be. If they feel maybe they need to compensate a little bit more, then perhaps we'll see a crazy play like the Nitros that have happened so far.
Absolutely, and even I was not aware of the Infinite Overtime here at SCS because it is trademarked, and this is my first time being here, but it's such a staple of other games such as Valorant, CSGO, even things like Overwatch where they do have that natively built into that game mode play. You're going to see Infinite Overtime, and it's a better way to guarantee an even match and an even score so that one side is not going to get screwed over by their first hold in their terms of their whether on attack or defense in overtime. So phenomenal to see this one going through, but Vale's going to have to rely on playing it out and winning another round now on the attack. And like you said, defense seems to be favored from both sides. Synthetic had struggled towards the end, but they're going to need to try and find another one. This could go for quite a while, and from the looks of it already, we're seeing another player. Nah, it's not Freak this time around. That's looking to actually play out and play the aggressive angle, but the question still remains. A drone tossed out. I believe that's Marmalades. They will actually miss the player of Nah who's sitting in corner. This could be devastating for Team Vale to lose that first player if they hop in from this window.
And for Marmalade, too, your Nomad, 2 air jabs in pocket. Nah, he'll bail out. He spots the rappel line, and he gets him by the skin of his teeth, even finding the final air jab. All of the flank watch utility is denied the remaining flashbangs, and Marmalade herself, who has been the standout player so far, tied for most frags on her team at 15 and 9. There is an equalizer, though. Freak, your Vigil goes down, and we've seen what the Vigil can do, not only in his tremendous ability to deny the attackers from taking map control, but also in the hookah round, where the Vigil was the key component, swinging out, denying the attackers from being able to move into the objective.
Not looking worse for wear. You're still heavy tied for 4. Hypers is also taking a little bit of damage, and quite frankly, it's just a matter of time between those players falling. Nah, with the Roni in hand, will try to find success. There'll be a shot connecting to the side of Poison as they try to take out Psychosis on this elbow-sided peak, but a player is also going to come around from the backside. Nah secures and saves out Poison by finding Frozen, and now a man advantage from Synthetic again, but it's really a 3.1 v3.
Yeah, I suppose you could come up with that answer if you did a little bit of the math in terms of the HP here, but the problem is, even if Nas on low HP, he's got a Nitro Cell! Triple kill, just as I say it, Aether blown sky high, and only Hypers left in this round. It looks like Synthetic are gonna send us even further, and Rice will be the way we get there.
Absolutely. It's gonna go back and back, neck and neck constantly. And we're definitely going to have to see how much farther it's going to go. Already now at round 17, and no victor has been decided. These teams not wanting to give it to the other. And the question I think at this point is, which team's going to tucker out first? Who's going to make the most mistakes? I always love to say you're going to make a ton of consistent small mistakes, which will eventually add up to the one big one, which is inevitably losing the round. And those mistakes eventually lead to inevitably losing the match. We've seen very little all across the board. A couple from Vale in the beginning sections of their attack, which a phenomenal comeback from them to lead us all this way to the overtime. But can they stop those mistakes? And will Synthetic continue to make mistakes on their turns, on their attacks? Because right now we're going to see if they have enough to go forward. They're going to have to bring out the Hibana once again. So they're seeming to like this decision as a way to cut inside. It's kind of for them in a way of destroying sightlines. They did lose out because they held out that hookah-sided balcony ledge. Quite frankly, I'm not sure if Hibana's the right play. I would like to see the Ayana in play from them once again.
I could certainly see the benefits of bringing Iana here and, have an extra set of frags, which are great for disrupting Vale from their positions. But I think Poison deserves another round to show what he can get done bringing the Hibana, though I think the one problem here is we're not going to hookah. And that's where I think you're having the most successful use of the X-Kairos, but I can see where you could use that to fill in here as well. Perhaps Rice uses his hard breach, he opens up the hatch inside hookah if that's not open prematurely, and Poison opens up some of the walls. We'll have an overexposed Nah, he moves forward 18 and 9. Nah nearly dropping a 20 bomb. He won't get there in this round. Hypers for all the aggressive plays that Team Vale have made. Finally, one of the spawn peaks will work in their favor.
Absolutely. We've seen it consistently. Synthetic's really been that side that's been going for the cheekier ways of going for those spawn peaks, like we've seen the Nitro sell previously, and Team Vale's gone for the tried and true, just shooting them when they spawn, and it's continuing to work for them consistently. So the man advantage, and like we've been saying consistently throughout the entire match, the first team to get the kill is more than likely the team that's going to win it, and it's continuing that spree. Hypers on a double kill to find Mohesi. The push coming around, it'll be Poison to come up with the bearing 9 and secure Hypers to deny any chance of a triple. But you're still a one-man deficit. They have to come in and clean up house. Marmalade, she's tagged a little bit, but they do still have the fight going out. Apers will fall to Freak, securing that tied 3v3. Nitrocell busted from below from Psychosis, not connecting. And Synthetic have brought themselves back into a fighting chance.
The hard breach reserve still exists for Synthetic, and they have plenty of time, I would say, to get some use out of them. The hookah hatch remains closed, reinforced, an opportunity denied, but surely Rice could move in eventually when he finishes playing the vertical game. Zofia, as strong as she is, Frozen's on the opposite end of it with 100 HP and a shotgun at the ready. He'll move up. He doesn't expect her to be on the landing. And Freak, he'll get an important frag now as he moves the man advantage. One kill in the column of Synthetic. A disadvantage on site. An attack win here could mean big things if Sin can pick this one up and can perform again on their defenses. Drones move through, but Psycho, the Mozzie, he's been exposed, forced to reorient himself close to the bar. It looks like a game of Ring Around the Rosie, a missed opportunity. Poison, he'll peek back around, and Psychosis just a little bit too late to provide the coverage. The defuse, it's out of hand. It'll need to be recovered for Rice and Freak, but we know what these two players can do. In fact, probably the best 1v2 you could ask for in terms of the showstoppers that we've seen so far. The Buck, he'll move on through. Freak still exposed. Psychosis hides in the corner. The Zofia will go down, but Rice saves the day for Synthetic in round number 17 as they finally will rip things back and take an attack win.
Absolutely devastating. A very nice clutch attempted from Psychosis. It just does not happen in his favor. Not expecting both of them to go in through that doorway into Blue Bar, and quite frankly, it's exactly what happened. They just go straight in, not giving a single care in the world, and it works in their favor. Synthetic now have an opportunity on the defensive side. They need to find this win here if they don't want to face out in another round. They're going to opt to go to the kitchen service, so control of this second floor is going to be pivotal. We do see Mohesi opting for the Maestro. They will hold that one out, and hopefully it's enough for them. But we need to find Freak and Gnaw, the people who are consistently finding the first frags. They need to get kills first before they unfortunately get refragged back out, because Team Vale has been punishing these players, these roamers, quite consistently, and Synthetic has struggled on the defensive half.
Attackers need to locate and
I think the one thing that Synthetic has got going for them here is in OT, they are the first team to collect 2 overtime rounds consecutively. Winning bars on both sides of the coin. Now they go to kitchen in service. I think Hookah, I would say that's Synthetic's strongest defensive site, but clearly there's a reason why they're going to Hookah over perhaps returning to a different site like we see here. And the big problem, the way that you're going to win this, it has to be on Freak. Freak, there's how many highlight clips going back from him in control of the top floor because he's just oozing with that confidence. He will take a gunfight. He's not scared. He doesn't turn his back and run. He doesn't go prone. He doesn't hide. He doesn't do any of that. He takes the battles when he knows that members of Vale are on the prowl and on the hunt, and he has this insane ability when he's on the vigil to get those picks in the hour of need. To deny Vale's entry on this round to even secure a double kill, I think would be considered a rank success for the Vigil. And we might see this happen all over again. For Team Vale, the biggest thing that they can have in their corner has got to be peeking him all at once, not giving him the individual battles, because Free can win those 1v1 fights. You can't kill 2 people at the same time unless there's exigent circumstances.
Absolutely. I think one of the big deciding factors here is the guns in hand. Freak getting swiftied on from the outside angles. They'll bust out that wall between bathroom and, of course, that sound room, the trophy side, and he'll lose that fight because of it. Freak has 15 to his name, not able to get any more, relegated now to a 1-0 KD. And Vale's going to take the first kill, which, name of the game, first one, is a pretty big pacemaker for the side, but Synthetics come back from worse. And they're going to have to look to do it again. Psychosis trying to step inside VIB, trying to drone it out to find information. Rice hanging onto that main lobby stairwell to try and cut off a flank that may come through from that eastern side window. The Nitro Cell from above will be ripped. It does not manage to connect. A phenomenal job by the attacking side of Frozen, who is devastating to behold on that second floor, has consistently been that problem maker. But speaking of problem makers, it's Mohesi onto Hypers. Nothing they can do in that situation. And from the looks of it, we do actually have Gnaw kind of crammed in this corner behind the desk, and Sura's entrance could be a dangerous situation for both sides, depending on how one side enters.
Could be the grave for Nah if the drone hole comes into use, but I'm not sure if they'll really have enough time to use that drone hole. In fact, Nah has readjusted. Playing close at the door, he'll look to perhaps swing out onto anyone. It looks like maybe the drone hole had finally come to use. No, it's the shreds of the floor, or rather ceiling, above Vale, without their buck, are forced to approach the vertical game in a bit of a different way. But here's the opportunity. The gun barrel, it pokes on through. Zofia goes down. Psychosis, such a big hitter to lose for Synthetic, who now command the 4 versus 3. We'll have the Jackal tracks. Nah is pushed away. He can't continue to play in the rat corner, contest in an area that you're unexpected, and so Vale have a little bit, a tiny remnant going for them here. And Afer will hit a phenomenal shot onto Rice, right through the metal bars, but Nah will fill the very same position. Going prone, Frozen's denied. Up above, Poison, he could deny this, but it's Nah who gets it done with the double kill. Synthetic, it took them all the way into round number 18 of Infinite Overtime, but in the end, they pull away with a win on their map pick.
Absolutely, neck and neck. I don't think we've seen, or I haven't seen in at least a month, a game as close as this one. And that may just because I'm not used to Infinite Overtime, but it's also because they do not want to let this one stand at all. Disgusting for Synthetic to have to come back. First team to take those double headers, overtimes win, and eventually take it into that 3 back-to-back. It really set that pacemaker for them, and Synthetic will take that map for themselves. And quite frankly, it could have gone either way. Team Vale will guarantee themselves that 1 point for taking it into the overtime, but already Synthetic has set the pace. They have the advantage in points, and they're trying to continue to stay here and not get relegated out inside of this group phase.
2 round wins is certainly helpful, or 2 points for Synthetic. I think this puts them about on equal currently with Project Neo, and an opportunity, if they're able to take a win, 2 points, 3 points, or even just bring it to overtime on Villa, to promote their efforts to put them past Project Neo ahead of week number 4's start. Plenty of intense moments. The Nitro Cell that we talked for so long about. Psychosis hitting banger after banger shot, being able to fend things off. And as well, Marmalade, who was that rock, that anchor, sitting down on the objective and preventing Synthetic from entering in so many rounds.
Absolutely. I mean, the name of the game was that entry frag. Who's guaranteeing that? Who's going to set themselves up for success? And it was going consistently to the team that would guarantee themselves that first frag. But in the end, nothing really matters because Synthetic, staying against the grain here, fighting off against it, was able to take it despite being a man disadvantage numerous times. That pacemaker that was setting the precedent in those early first, 8-9 rounds was getting completely thrown out the window in the second half. And quite frankly, it's what needed to happen if either side wanted a good chance. Synthetic, which almost looked like they were throwing it and giving them 2 rounds, giving Vale 2 rounds to tie it back into the overtime, to lead it to overtime, does eventually take it all the way and win it out, but it could have gone to Team Vale. I do want to give full credit, as we did see Psychosis, like you talked about, go off on every single tangent possible. They tried a numerous, plethora of strategies and everything in between, and Frozen's play on Sledge had some very pivotal moments, especially when trying to attack and take control of that second floor of that VIP side, that penthouse room, when they're holding and attacking that kitchen objective.
We'll have the statistics view up for you shortly, but a question that I wanted to pose for you, Infernosis, is if there's any player that competed in the first map on Coastline, who would you have to deem your MVP?
Let me think about this one. In terms of the aggressive nature we saw from both sides, I think that's kind of the deciding factor if you want to give to an aggressive side. Freak. I'd have to give it to Freak. 100%. I mean, playing on the Vigil, having phenomenal plays. We had that one moment where he's sitting inside near Penthouse in that hallway between Penthouse and VIP, swinging around, connecting 2 shots, one towards bathroom, one's onto the outside balcony, unfortunately getting refragged and losing the chance for the third, but almost hit the third in the process. It's clips like that and then continuing playstyle like that of that aggressive nature, which really sets that pacemaker in my head to say, I'm keeping an eye on him, and I'm going to continue to do so, so I'm going to give it to Freak.
For the 18 rounds that we've seen, let's go ahead and take a look at the statistics to get a better idea of, in the math, who performed the best. And Marmalade, I think it was consistency, the name of the game. Perhaps the KOSC doesn't totally reflect that, but 66% is above average, and for such a close game, having impact in each and every one of these rounds is not always possible. Not as well. 21-9, he broke the 20 bomb barrier, going plus 12 overall for such a long game, being able to keep up that momentum, staying at odds and fighting the good fight for his team, I think is the biggest boost and the biggest credit that you could give him. Another player to watch for, Freak. He was always active in the entry, and perhaps he wasn't the most successful in terms of going positive on the entry differential, but for 18 rounds, the entry pick in 5 of them, that's awesome.
Just taking and fighting in so many 50-50 gunfights. That's really what's giving that edge to me for Freak. Nah, however, giving that really big difference, though, that 1.45 rating, the 12 kill differential, is just insane overall to see. And when you look over at the Team Vale side in the same differential, they were fairly even across the board. Frozen wasn't catching the most flack in terms of overall, but did play exceptionally well on Sledge when it came to the kitchen side. Struggled on the other ones and wasn't able to find that much success, especially on defense when they were opting for that pulse in the first stages of their defense. They had to switch off. They had to change up the style because Synthetic was punishing them for it, and it's exactly what we saw come through.
I'm really excited to see what Villa has got in store for us. I think it's going to be another close game. I would be a little bit disappointed if we didn't see it go into infinite overtime and to just totally charge on through to see another incredibly lengthy match. As far as your expectations, coming away from this as Synthetic's pick that they had to win in 18 rounds all the way through infinite overtime, do you think that says anything about what we might expect to see on Villa?
Absolutely. I think Team Vale have a very good chance to take this map. It is their favored choice, and the fact that they were able to bring it to that such an extreme in overtime to 18 rounds, it's a pacemaker. It's setting everything up for themselves, but every team at this level, in this level of play, is going to have a consistent level of capability when it comes to every map. They know every map. They have strategies for every map. Everyone knows what they need to do, and Synthetic had some good switching. They knew what they needed to do on the attack. They played for Coastline, such a phenomenal way to entry and play aggressive nature. It's going to be different on Villa. It's a completely different play style, so it's going to be up in the air, but I think Team Vale is going to take it.
Speaking of Villa, we'll be heading there just shortly. Before, though, we're going to take a break as we get prepared. Don't close this tab. SCS will be right back.
Welcome back, everybody, to SCS, and we have a pretty good matchup for you today. Team Vale versus Synthetic, and it's already gone to the overtime. 18 full rounds there in Map 1 on Coastline. My name's Infinosis, joined here by Sticula. How you doing after that first game?
Ooh, I'm really getting energized. I'm hoping that we've got a thrilling conclusion in the second part of this best of two, which, I mean, coming into today, I would have figured the earlier game probably would have been the showstopper, the one that everyone is really excited about, but I think it's that desperation, the feeling for Team Vale and for Synthetic, who know that if they don't come out on top in this match, their chances and moving forward towards playoffs and towards that $3,500 prize pool, they could be over and done with far earlier than they might have expected. As far as Villa goes, a very roamer-favored map, and there can be a few problems moving towards that. As far as this being Villa and Team Vale's map pick, I have kind of an inkling of a feeling that they might be a little bit more prepared for it. And unfortunately, I think if I had to put a number on this one, I feel like Team Vale's probably going to take it 7-5 or 7-4. But now that everyone on Synthetic is powered up, they're ready, they're warmed, they're good to go, I think we could maybe see a little bit of a longer game, depending on how sweaty we see Team Vale get.
I want to put this up in the air for you here, Stick. Map 1, the go-to playstyle that Synthetic was bringing out was that heavy roam denial and heavy roam clear, and like you said, Villa is such a heavy-centric map for roaming. We could see that come into play and be that deciding factor for them once again. Team Vale did opt to go for that and eventually had to completely switch off of it and really play for that kind of information style roam, the prioritizing your life, not going for frags at all. And it really worked out for them in the end because Synthetic didn't adapt to it at the time, but I think Synthetic's roam game as well with that aggressive nature isn't the style you want for Villa, but it could find a level of success since it's so much wider, and Team Vale didn't opt for as heavy of a roam clear build. They really wanted to stick mostly initially on that, Nomad and really rely on air jams, and they didn't bring a Jackal, and I don't think we'll see a Jackal this time around for this map. We could see, we'll probably see a Nomad, but we could see a Gridlock as well as an extra level of support, but quite frankly, it could go either way, but I think Synthetic have a good chance, but Team Vale is going to take it.
I think one helpful point that does stack up a little bit better for Team Synthetic is that they've got the experience of both playing the roam. We know how Freak can be effective in these sort of off-site positions where shutting down the attackers requires a little bit higher of a level of competency compared to just sitting down on the objective itself or playing a close lurk. And as well, the point that you brought up in Synthetic being prepared to play for a full roam clear. That could be huge for Team Vale, who if they attempt to go for a roam, if Synthetic are ready to go in the second half to shut down that roam, if they're bringing actively the Jackal, they've got good prepared drones, it could be kind of ignoring everything that goes down in the first half. There could be a Synthetic closeout, and I think that's why it's so difficult to answer the question if is this going to be a tie or a Synthetic win.
Absolutely. One thing I want to ask and put up in the air for you in terms of the operator lineup that we're going to see. Obviously, the bans will be fairly straightforward for this map. Nothing too wild with Thatcher to go for the first one. But do you think we'll see the Syria Gate wielding Aruni? Do you think we're going to have that one come to fruition? Because Aruni and Syria Gates on this map can really be a pacemaker. Just slow down it even further. It's such a large map in comparison to Coastline especially. It can just slow it down a little bit more and especially slow down any chance of pushing inside of that master bedroom if you put up those on those windows, inside a closet, even into the bathroom. We're also seeing Nomad ban comes through. So it looks like we're going to have to rely on Jackals and Gridlocks as that roam clear.
Yeah, I've had a lot of Nomad bans recently, specifically for Villa. It feels like when you take the Nomad out of the picture, you have to make much more of a conscious decision that you're gonna bring the Jackal in place of Nomad and go for a full clear, or you're kind of just gonna sort of ignore that and practice more of a direct style of siege that ignores, in some respects, what's going on with the roam. For teams that are at more of kind of a T4 level, I feel like that's where the Nomad ban can be a real kicker, because you're not prepared for a situation where Nomad is not banned. If you're that really structured team that's always bringing Nomad on a flank watch and it gets banned out, that's just like, what? That's like going back to year 2 when Thatcher bans caused a lot of problems for more amateur teams.
Yeah, we do see that Valkyrie and Maestro moved out. Obviously, now their side wants information. We already had Valkyrie before getting removed, and they left the Maestro up. And quite frankly, for this Aviator and Games Room side objective, Maestro is such a heavy presence for being able to sit inside vaults and have that Alda to swing and be able to hold out that veranda. And of course, also be able to hold out that corner pocket of that red stairs next to the Games Room side. They don't want to face that, and obviously I think that's a pretty good decision, but this does leave Mira up on the board. It does leave Goyos up on the board. It does leave a lot of other operators that maybe could have a little bit more presence. I've even seen Malusis get banned on a map like this just because of how heavy the roam is and how annoying Malusis are to face off against. And if you take a look at it right now, guess who's on the Malusi? The Freak themselves, Freak, who's already just a devastating roam player for Synthetic.
I wouldn't expect anything less than a full roam extension for Synthetic here, but given the fact that you have a Goyo, I feel like this could be maybe more of a setup that's stacked kind of close to home. You've got your traditional 90 shield with ADSs to protect it, likely I think a rotate going to be open in that single panel wall next to the U-bar. Without immediate setup, nobody is over in statue to place down those reinforcements. As far I haven't totally tracked. Okay, Freak is over there. So Freak is setting it up. Perhaps he and Na are going to sort of stack. It looks like they're a little bit kind of more. This is sort of like the afterthought. It's like the extra step that's being layered on top of what they have existing. I'm totally in love with the fact that seeing the Nomad ban for Vale, they're going to replace it with a 0.
I think 0, like you had mentioned before the first map even started, 0 is one of your favorite ones to see. And I have to agree, 0 can be utilized in so many different ways. And it's going to be interesting to see how Vale will opt to actually go for that. So they're going to go and finally bring in Iana. They had done it for like 1 or 2 rounds on map 1. It didn't really work for them, so they decided not to really stick with it. And they're going to have it in tow here. But Na already looking for an aggressive stance. We'll get tagged a little bit in the process, but nothing too bad. Does escape with their life, just like we had talked about earlier. roaming, but with a heavy emphasis on staying alive, not exactly fragging it out. And Synthetic are really taking that in stride. A minute has been bought, not exactly the best amount of time for keeping them at bay inside of Master Bedroom and towards that Astronomy side, but Vale are still trying to clear out and gather information from this northern side and trying to act upon it as they step closer and closer towards taking advantage of this classical Hall 90.
One thing that you might want to keep in mind is the fact that we have one reinforcement remaining for Mo. When 90 eventually gets capitulated, you can kind of back off and... Wow, Frozen just got such a deep angle onto Rice playing on top of the bar. I would have never thought that from a 90 rappel you could actually shoot that deep, but I mean, that works great in their favor. You lose the Goyo, the manpower is a little bit less so, but one thing Vale are lacking here is meaningful pressure on the south veranda. They don't have, you know, for example, your Habana out there preparing to open up the wall. In fact, the only hard breach that's being brought is Marmalade having the secondary breach in her pocket to bring us, you know, the final step. I think that's kind of Vale recognizing that getting the utility that protects the Hunting Vault wall, removing that Electroclaw is so difficult that you don't want to bring an extra hard breacher just to not be able to use that. For Vale in their attack, entirely comprising a north push, where getting into Aviator I think is likely to be the biggest factor to go for a vault door plant. One thing that I like to see is the fact that Psychosis has rotated back to apply a little bit more pressure. He's going to try to occupy the Jaeger as they begin to go for this plant.
Plant looking like it was about to go down. Frozen was opting for it, but will get Toxic baimed out. And finally, like you spoke about, Psychosis on that pincer, giving a little bit more of a presence in nature. But Marmalade, she will fall, relegated to a death pool as it will be found by Freak. But Mohesi falls to Aether, and Psychosis finding Nah. Mohesi finding a second with a Nitro onto Frozen. Vale still now in a 1v3. Psychosis is down, not in a good situation, and Hypers needs to find another, finding Poison, but falling to, of course, Nah, who's going to continue that spree. Synthetic will defend on round 1, and I'm going to lead this question towards you, Stig. Do you think that's entirely because they were such a weak presence in that pincer from that north to south because they didn't take control of Veranda?
I think that's certainly a contribution there. It looked like the attack was a little bit mistimed. You had, think of this kind of like a system of weights. You have so much weight that's stacked up on the red landing site, and then one tiny little Ash at the very end going over towards Veranda, and she went 1 for 1. I think she killed the player, the Jaeger, that was inside study, and herself went down. So beyond being a human drone, she wasn't able to prevent Nah from flanking around, or rather, I think it was the Malusi who managed to kind of work his way around to the door, came in and stopped that final player because there was no more presence from the Ash. There was nobody there to res her. There was certainly not enough time to maneuver over there to get her back up. It was that mismanagement that really led to the downfall in the round. And I would like to see for a future Aviator round, a conscious effort, a Vale to go towards Veranda when appropriate and not push haphazardly as the player that's going towards Veranda is still in transition.
I think one of the big things we might see coming from Vale's side, especially with the fact that Ash has been left unbanned, like we didn't see on Coastline, where Ash was banned out, we might see a pincer, but not in a normal styled pincer. When you're attacking the objectives that are that trophy and statuary side, you're really still trying to take control of that master bedroom, and you will split off towards Veranda and push into that study side as well. But I think we're also going to see a pincer in nature inside of Astronomy. I think we'll see someone rappel on that stairwell window and try to catch a player off guard, but it will require for Vale to take control of master bedroom, bathroom, and be able to get a crossfire into the player in the back. That'll set themselves up nicely, and normally you'll see an Ash will go for that because you have seen Castles play and place in and reinforce that window, but we don't see that this time around. They're going to opt to still go for that playstyle of separation, playing off of the objective. We do have a Kayi to Electroclaw some walls out and deny some extra hard breach, but quite frankly, Vale hasn't really opted for any hard breach. Once again, relying on that utility hard breach in the pocket of Marmalade. She's their one hard breacher, and quite frankly, if they lose her, it's devastating for them, much like Rice's death is devastating to Synthetic. Nice kill by Hypers.
I think that's twice in a row now that Rice has been the opening death, and Freak goes now too. Jaeger will swing Nah, finally able to secure at least a little bit of a trade. He shuts down Aether, removing the Iana, who we've talked a little bit ad nauseum about in the use of her replicator, as well as, you know, just having that extra leg up with the intel and a set of frags. Nah rotated around. the one thing to think about, no claymores, no air jabs, so his flank is not stopped. He'll find Hypers doubling up. It's a triple kill for Na as he rips apart the top study pressure, and the lack of the air jab, banning the Nomad for Vale, just kneecap their assault.
Devastating once again. The roam from Synthetic, like we've been talking about consistently, continuing to rear its ugly head, and it's now going to be left up to Frozen and Psycho, and they're going to need to find 3 of the opposition. 1 minute and 20 seconds are left for them to play with, and they're still taking somewhat full control of this south side. And you are missing one player. Nas still not in an exact position. We do finally see him at the top. He is holding out in between of that astronomy doorway, in between the split side of Trophy and Statuary, and who better to play in this position with a 416C in hand? Poison opting inside of Trophy will hold a closer angle in hopes of denying, but it does look like they are going to go for a melee peek, and it is a little bit dirty to see that come out. Hopefully it'll work for them. Vale in a firefight. It'll be Frozen to connect from the opposition. Psychosis falling to Na, and Mohesi finding Frozen. But you do see Na does die, so they aren't completely denied of going uncontested in that round. Just took a little while to make them fall.
Fortunately for Na, he managed to die before securing the ace, but a quad kill, man, that's something to talk about. Na was active in every aspect of that round, from lurking around near kind of the aviator area to later coming up from study. And I have to think, where was the idea for Team Vale to just neglect worrying about study? Maybe it was kind of that Nomad ban, what the effect of that starts to have on them. But, Scott, I would think if you ban a Nomad, you're going to prepare for what the void of air jabs is going to be like and what it opens you up to.
I'm honestly thinking that, and I really did want to see it, I'm honestly thinking that Zero may not be the play. Marmalade, who was that top player for Vale in the last map, has not been able to show up that well here, and quite frankly, it's not working out for them. I think we do need to see a possible gridlock play come out as an extra layer of support, or even a Jackal to maybe play a little bit more aggressively in style to clear out that roam. It's just not working out for Vale, but this is what we also saw in map 1. Synthetic just sweeping in their first initial stages of their defensive half, and Vale really struggling to find an answer, but Vale eventually did make that comeback, completely tying it out and leading it to that lead in overtime, which they did eventually lose, but Vale have a consistency now of being able to take it back and return with a couple rounds in stride, but we're heading now down to the first floor objective, this kitchen and dining room, this tertiary site, and Stakula, I'm not noticing, at least from what I'm seeing, a lack of nitro cells. They've got 4 in pocket, and quite frankly, it's looking dirty if Synthetic can manage to land even just 2 of these on the opposition.
Yeah, they're really looking for every opportunity to try and go for the explosive play. We have Poison playing below. The cardiac sensor is quite the prominent feature. You almost never see a kitchen and dining setup where the pulse isn't brought. Not only because he can work together with your teammates to coordinate above and be able to stop the offense from taking positions inside Master if you are a little bit too wary about where you position yourself. It's not the largest question so far. We have members who are trying to isolate Mohesi, who's playing behind the Astro desk. And the Cade is in a real tricky spot because there's a player out on the window rappel who could seriously deny him. Hypers gets 2 now, not only eliminating the back Astro presence, but also finding Freak in the meanwhile. And so one of those nitros, one's been wasted, doing a bit of damage onto Hypers, and a set of the impacts as well have gone. But not as he finds Marmalade, he does manage to secure somewhat of a recompense, shutting down Marmalade 0-3 for her so far as the dilemma of Zero continues not to work for the Vale offense.
How the hell is Aphers alive? I'm going to be brutally honest here. Barely managing to stay alive, and looked like that actually could have been a kill. The Nitro Cell just not making it through those metal bars in the floor, but extremely close nonetheless. That's another Nitro Cell for the Synthetic side that's failed, and I spoke about this previously. If they just found 1 or 2, they've already in a good spot, but unfortunately for them, Poison, who had a nice opportunity, will miss it out, and thankfully for them, Rice will find the kill onto Aphers, securing a 3v3 with a minute now left on the clock. Hyper still able to clear out as much as the floor as possible to get some sightlines onto the floor below, but nah! Finally finding the Nitro Cell kill. Frozen will fall, and Synthetic put themselves in a man advantage. They weren't able to find 2 with Nitro Cells, but they still were able to find the consolation prize of 1.
Hyper's creeping around by Big Ben. His gun might have just poked around the corner. It looks like we had one player hide close inside China, and Poison is successful. Psychosis, 100 HP with the R4C, but not much else supporting him. It's certainly not the clock benefiting him much in this scenario. He'll have to go aggressive. As he swings wide, he connects the headshot onto Poison. The deep angle, far gun battle not working out for the UMP, but additionally, you have more and more time needing to be spent as a Banshee blocks his progress. Psychosis closes in. Synthetic playing quite passively here, not wanting to give this one away and knowing that the diffuser, it's out of control, but Psycho, he finds Na, however, going the other way. Only 5 seconds remain and the decision must be made. He has no idea where the final defender is. A flawless rotation for Synthetic on Villa.
Absolutely phenomenal play from both sides. I mean, swinging finally. Even Na was like, what the hell just happened? And just had to give full props to the opposition. I mean, the shot coming through and connecting right there from that dining to the opposite hull. Devastating to behold. And great positioning by the opposing player to just stay in their own zone. Do not let them play you out. Just stay in the pocket and don't peek it. They hear the Malusi Banshee, that wub going off, and they still not wanting to hold aggressive nature, just say, nah, we'll play our own game and we'll let you go the other way. Exactly what they needed to do. So phenomenal play from Synthetic, and Team Vale with a vengeance now as they're going to continue to try and find anything going for them. They managed to survive from the onslaught of Nitro Cells initially, only losing one, but they still managed to lose the round from phenomenal play from Synthetic. Psychosis just not able to bring it back for them.
Out of the 3 rounds that we've had so far, which of them do you think was the closest for Team Vale?
That's a good question, actually. Round 2 was a little bit close because Na had a 4K. That was really what guaranteed that for them. It went completely in the terms of Synthetic, and we saw the attempted refrags coming through, but it just didn't happen, as Frozen was just not able to do anything in the Zofia. So that one's completely off the board. No chance in round 2. Round 1, there was no pincer coming through on this Aviator and Games room. Not what you want to see from Vale. I have to say the last round, and only because of that last player who was able to bring them somewhat closer, but Synthetic have really had the advantage in every single one of these.
I feel like that sort of brings about another question, which is which site, if repeated under the exact same circumstances for Vale, would have been the one that you could win? I think it's Aviator, because the only thing that really went wrong was the fact that they just didn't have enough pressure early enough and coordinated, communicated, whatever you want to call it, on the actual Aviator side. They managed to clear out the roam and escape essentially unscathed, which seems to be sort of the course we're heading towards. Na almost having his life completely stolen away as the tracers of Frozen from outside on the board balcony skated just past him. Again for Vale, sweet timing, managing to clear out the Jaeger and the Malusi. Control of the extension has been relinquished, and so the focus shifts now to attacking direct onto the objective, and I'm hoping that Vale don't make that same mistake in neglecting the southward pressure.
Push coming through. Freak still on that roam. We're seeing that consistently inside of that main entrance, and this is exactly the same position Freak was able to devastate the opposition of Vale when they were pushing towards that trophy and statuary objective. Now, we aren't on that objective. We're on the one that you said was actually the closest to come through, and I actually will agree with that decision that you came to as well. I think that if replayed in a better way, if Vale can, as long as getting that pressure towards the veranda side, could have been a huge determining factor. But look at what we're missing once again. Pressure to that veranda side. Nah, just able to walk around and study. No chance on the backside because Freak is watching that main staircase. No flank being made from Vale. They're just saying, we're going to push you from the north and pray that it works out. And it didn't really work out the time before. And it's not looking like it's going to work out this time because you've still got Mohesi holding strong inside Classical Hall, not holding 90, but still being able to deny any opposition a step forward. And he does have a free wiggle room to take a step back as well. He's not holding in that traditional farther back staying, the southernmost Vulcan shield positioning, but still in a pretty good position nonetheless to escape unscathed if that shield goes down. Frozen now on the outside veranda, finally getting a pincer, and Na is actually forced out of study.
The shield, though, still atop study, has not been cleared, and so provides an opportunity to deny if Vale should choose for Frozen to charge on through. The utility game, it's begun to be played. Rice, he's DBNO'd on the high angle as Afer challenges through, seizing control of the objective and now going for a risk table plant. The toxic canister, it's sent out, but not to much use, as it looks like now Marmalade has been successful and Rice has been left to bleed out on the cutting room floor. Hypers eliminates Freak, swinging wide. Na manages to gun down Frozen, relinquishing the pressure, but jumping up. Afers gets Mo, and all of a sudden, all members of the synthetic defense and their retake fall, and Vale claw their way to win.
You called it. I agreed with you as well. If they get a new chance on that objective and actually take it and fully enable that pressure and pincer coming from that veranda side and can remove Na out of that study's room, they'll take that round, and it's exactly what they did. They took full control of study, forcing Na over to the classical hall towards that main stairwell, not giving time for Freak to rotate back before they actually take full control and advantage of the situation, and it goes entirely in the favor of Vale. Pretty handily towards the end as frags were just dropping all in the favor of them. Synthetic needed to find an answer, and they're going to try to do it again. They're going to head back to the aviator rooms and games room objective, and well, I haven't casted with you in a while, but I want to bring up the question to you. I am of the opinion that playing the same objective twice without changing anything inherently breeds complacency and isn't exactly what you want to do. What's your take on playing the same objectives back to back?
I think it's sort of like micro issues that replaying a bomb site is addressing. It's sort of, in a way, saying that we didn't lose the round because of the strategy, we lost the round because of how we played the strategy. And while that's true to some respects, notable plays that I think worked poorly was Rice on the jump up near the A chassis. I don't think he accomplished much, and I honestly don't think with the Vector he should be the one challenging that deep angle. I think if you have Rice closer to the front line, actually inside of Hunting Bolt, he would be more useful, especially given that he's got a Nitro Cell to be able to deny the plan, something that Synthetic were not successful in for the previous round. One position that was super good was the Goyo shield down here at the hallway. It was never cleared, and so the attackers couldn't use the game's door, but that didn't matter. And I think overall, the one largest problem that repeating this bomb site has is the lack of on-site intel. No Maestro, no Echo, so you can't tell when the plant is happening or where it's happening.
Roam presence still coming through. We've talked about the presence coming through this bedroom side, and I mentioned initially bringing Aruni as a top possible play for it. I think it would be a good decision if you're not going to opt to go for a Mozzie. You can still have that Roni, still have the utility making good rotation holes, and have the ability of those Surya gates. But the issue is you have both Valkyries and Maestros being banned out, so you desperately need, if you're going to have information, Mozzie's the only choice you have, so you need to bring that one out. So I don't think we'll see an Aruni, as well as I don't think we're going to see Na here any longer in this round. Frozen finding the kill exponentially, setting Vale up in a player advantage, and they're going to start swinging in sporadically. Freak still rotating down below. He's on the first floor, coming up behind, could catch the player sitting on stairwell off guard. This could be devastating for them. Frozen does actually connect with a kill again onto Poison, but Freak is not far behind. Freak coming onto the stairwell, sees the player. They actually fire at each other. Frozen getting the most damage in between, but now Freak in a bad situation, forced to rotate away, but Rice will secure the kill to Frozen, guaranteeing a 4v3.
Rice has got to link up back on site, otherwise the site could capitulate quite quickly. Rice, he'll swing on out, he finds Afer, but Marmalade quick in the trade game, moving this back and still into a Vale one man up. What they might not know is Marmalade has actually managed to escape, I think jumping out of the skull window, and in a very similar way to round number one, go for a late rotate. It's actually Hypers who had done that, now outside on the balcony, hoping to be the difference maker. It won't matter much. We'll see Freak, he gets the sledge, but rotating back in, he's cut down by Psycho. Marmalade on the zero in the Ash, trying to contest this site. 50 seconds to go. The advantage, Vale, they do not want to cost this. They don't want to give it away. They're going to use their drones, gather as much intel as possible. Because even if Mo is on a bad operator with some would call a bad gun, he still has a gun, and that could make a world of difference. The plants will go down. The Nitro, it's sent out, but it's shot mid-air by Psychosis, providing the coverage, and Mo, he'll try his damnedest to shoot through the wall, but it's unsuccessful. And the plant now down, Vale into the coverage phase.
A split. They go here. They're going to jump out onto the veranda, just escaping. No chance. Psychosis Initially not wanting to be chased out, and it's Mohesi, still the last person remaining. Marmalade, she's now going to take a look through, but Psychosis will be in a firefight with Mohesi, and it looks like Psychosis wins it out with a breach round from below, guaranteeing that round for Vale. They'll take it back-to-back on this objective. Like we had mentioned, I mean, this is obviously their point. They're struggling on the other ones. They obviously struggled in a pretty close one, but still a pretty heavy struggle when it came to that tertiary objective on the first floor, and they had no chance when it came to the objective of statue and trophy and statuary. I'm just dyslexic of words apparently today, but Synthetic's going to opt to go back to it. We saw map 1 go 3-3 at half, so we may see that again if Synthetic fail to hold out against Vale.
I'm glad that Synthetic don't make the decision to repeat that for the third time in a row. I feel like that it wouldn't have fixed it, maybe even if Na had survived longer than the opening stages of the round, and if Frozen hadn't claimed a double. I don't know, it's such an intoxicating thing to pick apart all these tiny little problems that went wrong in a round to try and justify repeating it immediately, but I think that ignores the fact that Trophy and Statue, it wasn't a bad sight for Synthetic either. I mean, Vale had to start. I think certainly they got off to it in the right way when they begun by eliminating 2 members inside of the Aviator side extension. And, you know, you could sort of say that maybe not was the difference maker. When he flanked up the study stairs, that was why they won. But it's balancing those small little microcosms to come up with the reason why you won the round that I think makes us get a little bit too in-depth, a little bit too off track. Focusing on the macro strategy and bringing something that you can show to Vale that's comfortable, that you know that's going to win. Synthetic, if they take 4-2, they're going to be sitting pretty because they get to progress on the attacks. They have a safety net of 2 rounds that allows them to sort of fall back to try a few different things. And knowing that this is Vale's map, you're going to need that safety net once we see them get over on the defense.
It looks like Vale is still opting to push in from the east, but they're actually going to push the first floor. They haven't yet decided to go up to the second. I don't think that's a bad decision, especially when Synthetic is going to bring out that Kaid with the Electro Claws as an extra way to, you know, hinder the opposition of Vale to be able to bust inside. And once again from Vale, they don't want to go into a hard reinforced wall. They only have Marmalade. She's the only person with an actual hard breach in play, and it's not even a coherently solid one. It's just a small leap hole. It's quicker now, as that update did come through about a month ago, which severely buffed the speed at which that went off. And quite frankly, I think it's still a positive hard breach, but I don't think it should be your go-to singularity hard breach for your side. Vale has continued to try and get this one working. It's worked on a map where they don't necessarily need to actually deal with hard breaches out. Turns that objective, towards that games and aviation side room. Completely different here. They need to bust out that hard wall between that statuary and, of course, the wall of master bedroom. Freak on a tear, finding Hypers, and that's the second one for their side. Frozen has fallen as well. Vale struggling from the get-go.
That is not how that engagement is supposed to go. Hypers had isolated 2 defenders, and the Melusi, when she dropped the hatch, there was plenty of noise. That was just such a missed opportunity, and gives Synthetic such a huge leg up in this round. They've shut down Frozen, they've shut down Hypers, who, combined with Psychosis, are the trio of top-performing players, and you lose most of your soft destruction here. Not to mention that you don't have any hard breach. That's not even a factor. Vale are going to try to attack this by dry peeking, by pushing through these single individual doorways, and that could create such a problem when you're at a man disadvantage. I think their one saving grace is the fact that they secure Na, who has gone crazy, but then now we neglect... Poison just walks through. Completely obliterates Psychosis, and Marmalade has to pick up the pieces against 3 armed and ready members of Synthetic, 3 Nitros in possession, not to mention Freak, who is going crazy this round.
Vale have struggled every time we've touched this objective, and it's just going to show it again. Synthetic taking it fairly handily, but Marmalade, she's still alive. Spraying takes shots on the opposition. Rice will secure the kill. Synthetic go ahead, like you said earlier, sitting pretty, coming in 4-2 at the halftime split, and now they get to do it again on the offense, see what they can take care of, see what they can go out for, and I'm hoping to see actual hard breaches from the side of Synthetic, Because we only saw that pocket breach in the hands of Marmalade, and she didn't get very much usage out of that because you can't clear those Electro Claws.
Yeah, I think if you're going back, probably should introduce a hard breach. Like, I get the idea that you want to bring all of these extra pieces that you're adding on top. Bringing, in place of Nomad, you have to have something to stop flanks, and so your Zero is kind of like the auxiliary way of going about that. But you also have, what else? You have, like, Iana and all these extra soft destructions. You just don't have any hard breach. Attacking statue, getting open the triple wall is the only way that you can really establish a confident entry point, and you open the triple wall and you use that to be able to kind of push forward and secure opportunities for picks one by one. Not only did Vale not have the opportunity to create opportunities, that's such a weird turn of phrase, because they didn't have hard breach, they also had a double kill freebie inside the first floor bathroom that they completely sold away.
I want to touch on Hyper's pick of an operator here, picking up the Oryx. Now, I'm a huge Oryx fan. I love Oryx just so much. Still having the 1.5 on the T5, still having so much viability. You don't really see them on Villa, because you do see them mostly on Consulate, such a hatch-heavy objective or map with just a very large exponential space of range, or wide variety of range. And Hypers, who kind of prefers the Aruni, that's what they had stated previously, that they like to play on defense. And like I said, you're not going to see an Aruni really in play here. It's just not necessary to see the Aruni at this point in time, because you need, if you're going to have Aruni and rely on Aruni as a gun, just bring Mozzie. It's better in this choice. So Hypers is not going to do either. Instead, opting for the Oryx and hoping to win out these frags, they're switching it up, and they're going to be that roam clear player. See how it pans out. I'm currently sitting on the basement, and we are seeing a very standard push. Swinging in from that northeast, that north side, coming in pretty exponentially quickly. I don't see a pincer just yet towards that veranda side to study, but I do see a man missing in terms of this north side, so there could be a player stepping around to maybe catch a player off guard and possibly take that pincer, that aggression, and force the players on the defensive side of Vale to step away from that study room and really put Synthetic in a good position. Oh my goodness, Psychosis!
There's no way, he just obliterated Freak. What a shot. Just in an instant. Oh my, at least Psycho gets traded. That's a highlight reel. Rigel clip that one, that just went crazy. The trade is there though. Psychosis, he gets a banger, and he goes down. There's still one man off-site, for better or for worse. Hypers is roaming with a proximity, and he had sent another one down here on his roam as well. Oh, but here we go. The roam works for the Oryx, and he finds Gnaw.
Starting off strong, the Oryx, exactly what I want to see as an Oryx fan, actually finding success and giving the side of Vale that man advantage now, as it was tied off, and I'm still in utter shock and awe after that shot that we saw that managed to just devastate every single portion of Freak, but they'll have the man advantage, and they have the advantage of anchoring on site, able to hold off the opposition Synthetic, but it's going to be these Kairos pellets that kind of come in and clear out these mirror windows. It's going to be a good way to go for it. They'll try to impact trick it out. I think it will find it. A for finding poison on that window. Vale miracle shots over and over again to find themselves even more an advantage, I guess, in this round. Nothing really single-handedly showing them it besides these miracle shots. It's a miracle here in Villa, and Vale definitely holding that V combination.
Mo and Rice embattled at the 90 corner with 25 seconds. They've got Hypers peeking down the hallway, probably the worst situation you could be set up with. Rice will try to battle in. He gets Hypers, this rounds the corner, and now a second. Suddenly, site control is fallen under the auspices of Synthetic, at least where the A-site games is concerned. Here comes a Nitro, sent out to try and deny the plant, but Mo, he manages to dodge around. However, his backside not covered. The open reinforcement allows Aper to shut down Carrier. Marmalade finds Rice to give Vale the first round of the second split.
Extremely back and forth, very reminiscent of map 1, isn't it, Stick? Just consistency, back and forth action going either way, one way or the other. And well, Vale does get a little bit closer, sitting pretty now just one round behind. Synthetic almost made a comeback there. The phenomenal shot from both Psychosis and also, I believe, from the player of Afers onto the opposing side of, I believe it was Rice at the time, those shots that can connect and just kind of devastate the opposition with no real clue what to do about it, they're going to hurt your side a lot, and they're going to make it exceedingly difficult to play onward. Synthetic need to find an answer to that, and I think the answer is just to shoot them first, right? There's literally nothing that can go in the other way. They have to shoot them first. They have to win these fights, these 50-50 engagements. And when we're talking about players with 50-50 engagements, we're talking about Synthetic's Freak, who came in and had that 5 entry, the most entry kills inside that last map. Freak needs to win these entry kills again, and it's just not going in their favor.
Yeah, he just hasn't been the crazy showstopper so far. But, I mean, there's still a little bit of road to run ahead, and I think Freak can, if given time in the right scenario, he can be set up. In round number 7, I have to say, you know, I don't think that was really totally on Freak for having died at Red Landing, because Psycho just hit a 1 in a million shot, demonstrating why Psycho is one of the players with the highest raw gun skill that we've seen compete in SCS. And, you know, for Freak, you know, you kind of just have to stay away from that. You have to make up your mind if you're going to peek him. If you're going to engage with that player, he saw an opportunity, and unfortunately for him, it just didn't work. Though I think there's still time left for Freak to redeem himself and for a little bit of progress to be shown. We might have a pending engagement here for Nah. He'll round the corner. Look like Hyper's put a little bit off balance, and there we go. Freak picks up an important frag, shutting down the very member who had killed him in the previous round.
Exactly what we talked about. They need to get that first pick, and Freak did exactly that. Psychosis and Hypers will fall. Great support from the players in Synthetic to give themselves the advantage going forward, and they've really secured this first floor in their favor. And I want to point out, Mohesi on the 0 could be a good contributing factor for them. They haven't had the most spectacular map so far, but Mohesi did drop a pretty large amount of frags on the previous map. They're dropping 9 overall, and while they weren't the highest up there and they had a -3 in terms of their differential, they still were able to show up and find that support and that utility. They are having the hard breach in pocket as well. We saw Marmalade with this previously on her chance for the attacking side, but you do actually have a main hard breach, that long-range hard breach of Poison on that Hibana, and we know Poison likes the Hibana. We saw it on the first map. They brought it out towards the later terms of the round, and they really liked it. Afer pushing for an object kill, but it's not going to matter. Rice finds it instead, and now Synthetic's up 3-man advantage here.
This could be that opportunity to move up to the 5th round, but Frozen, he'll hang on. Freak goes down. You lose your Sophia, but Synthetic have every little bit of map control that they could hope for. With the Echo now gone, it's the SCK-3000 that sounds off. Frozen, he hits the dirt, and Marmalade forced again into the clutch. We've seen her perform in these situations before, but now the coverage, the deep angle from the back of Astro, and Poison soon to confirm the plant. An opening is created that won't work to the advantage of Rice, but it's not from back Astro that moves Synthetic up one more round. Now on the doorstep, match point.
Nice shot, actually. I'm going to give that. They open up that wall, that link in between towards the skylight wall, and connects with the headshot. They open it, trying to take it into their advantage, and it doesn't matter, and it's going to be in the favor of Synthetic in the end because they will be able to clean up on the refrag shot coming from that Astronomy side. A good attempt, valid in effort, but nonetheless 2 rounds behind, and as you like to coin it, the doorstep 2 match point. Synthetic, they had this exact same scoreline on the last map, but it came down to it. They were 2 rounds ahead. Vale made a phenomenal comeback attempt in the end, and they brought it back into the overtime. We both slated Vale having the better chances of winning this map out, and Synthetic's really drilling that down that they're not going to go out without a fight, and possibly they're just going to want to end it all here in the next up-and-coming 2 rounds.
What a story this would be for Synthetic to battle all the way through in their own map pick, to be, you know, so closely fought and to have been determined to stick through all the way to the end. And then to get onto Vale's map pick for Synthetic to just completely steal it on through. And now I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but imagine that is the storyline that could roll out in front of us. As far as where Synthetic go, maybe getting kind of the edge over in Infinite Overtime has set up a position where Vale are kind of out of this, and seeing that they put in all this effort, Scott, just to fall when it finally came down to the dying moments of Coastline, perhaps that's having a little bit more of a long-lasting effect than they might have wanted.
mentality. You cannot get so down in the slumps at this point. Vale desperately needs to find not just a round win to keep them in this match, but a round win to help their mentality out. They were negative when they went into this half, and they failed it out on their own attacking side, and Synthetic have done a fairly good job of breaking even when it comes to their return on the attack. And mentality for Vale's got to be struggling. They found one somewhat not that long ago. They need to find some more, keep that up and heavy. And quite frankly, I think Vale's going to try and look for it pretty early. They're playing that same aggressive style we saw Synthetic do on map 1. They're roaming, they're playing in for these frags, and they're trying their damnedest to secure something, but it's the side of Synthetic on these massive entry kills we've seen consistently from them that's going to be a way to devastate that. Psychosis with another one, finding Freak, and Freak, who's that entry player, will be denied once again. Last time we saw this from Psychosis himself, Vale took that round, already setting a good precedent for themselves.
Definitely a bit of a battle and kind of a nemesis storyline starting to build between these two in the opening duels that we've seen erupt between both of the star players so long. Frozen playing the Capcan, not something we've had a whole huge opportunity to look at. Afer's going to create an opportunity, opens up a little bit of the floor and looking up above. However, for Synthetic, they have progressed farther. Two players, Na and Rice, line up and meet their end as the 9x9 VSN rips right through a triple kill for Frozen. All of a sudden, we're heading straight course for a flawless round if Poison, the captain of this team, can't have his say in it. Hyper is a little bit frustrated by the events of that. Not totally necessary to peek, but Poison, the diffuser, it's far out of reach, and there's simply no way that he can recover this or make much use of the hard breaching utility.
Absolutely devastating if you're on Synthetic. This is exactly what you wanted from Vale. You don't want just a round victory for yourselves. You want one that's so one-sidedly that the other team's mentality is going to be chalked. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen in this situation. All of them falling to the same guy who will now be downed and out for the count from Poison's bearing 9. It's going to hurt. Taking that L pretty aggressively is going to hurt. Frozen will be denied any chance of completing his entourage of kills. I think that's your consolation prize if you're Synthetic. You denied him of anything going forward, but it's still just not looking hot for you.
Psychosis is just playing in the rat corner. We've got a bullet hole angle. This is likely to be Poison's last foray. Though Marmalade has not yet actually managed to use it, Poison will skate past. He suddenly recognizes there might be more of a defender presence inside of Astro than he had earlier predicted. And Psychosis gets the finishing blow to eliminate the already low HP Habana. Vale will get the resounding round win, the one that they had been struggling to dredge up. Not as flawless as they might have looked for, and a little bit of fun play there as Frozen died to Poison through the own holes that he had made himself. 4-5 within. A comeback here for Vale if they can push forward for another round. It's not over just quite yet.
That's the one thing Vale has consistently done. Comebacks. Every single chance we've seen, and even in the situation where it does make it, they make and surmount that comeback over exponential odds, make it into the overtime. They even took 2 rounds back-to-back, forcing Synthetic to take 3 to secure themselves the victory on Coastline. If this does make it to the overtime and eventually even more into the infinite overtime in the end, it could be a devastating factor for Synthetic and for Vale. They need points. Both sides desperately need. Like you had mentioned, Synthetic believe we're tied at this point with the team above them, Project Neo, as I think what you mentioned. They need more points. They need to separate themselves even further, and they need to set themselves up and sit pretty. They'll have to take this if they want any chance. They're already behind by too large of a margin. They need the full 3. They need desperately to take this next 3 rounds and win it all. But Synthetic not looking like they're going to want to let it happen. They're opting now on this attack. They're continuing to bring the same lineup. They do have now a Twitch on Rice, which could be an interesting factor, especially when the fact that Frozen is opting to bring that Mira could be a direct and relative counter to that, and it could be its entire sole purpose.
Always that question of how many points you're going to manage to close this one out with and move forward into the rest of the season and wherever that puts you at the halfway point. Something to think about. Synthetic have actually already moved past Project Neo. I just took a quick glance at the Wikipedia page. PDHM Gaming sits at third, so Synthetic with this win have moved out of the red space that the final two places in Group B constitute, but they are not in the clear just yet. If they could secure 3 points from this win, that would be tremendous. It would put them ahead of PDHM Gaming. It would put them fairly distant from where they started out at the beginning of week 3, and it could be huge. But for all of what that matters, we have to focus on the here and now. Where are Synthetic when it matters to the round? Freak is waiting at the bottom of the red stairs, and Hypers, the roaming Frost, walks right into the waiting arms of the Zofia.
Man, I love the Frost pick, not only because it's a great way to have that shield, and the 9mm C1 is devastating. I mean, for being a 9mm, it wrecks house. It does a lot of damage, and it's just another way to force the opposition and make a little bit slower. Kind of like a Runegates do the same thing. Capcan traps even do the same thing. You're not really going to secure too much off of those. The chance of a player stepping into those or being forced into those is fairly low at this level of play, but it's just another way to slow down, forcing players into that kind of 30-second metric time, but not going to matter. Frags going everywhere as Marmalade finds Poison. Freak will go and find Psychosis still alive, but stepping into the Frostman. I just said they don't step into those, and they do instead. And now it's a 3v1, and they'll fall. Frozen secures. Caster's Curse at its finest stick.
Oh, what? Oh, we got it. We got the final view. Oh, thank you, Rainbow Six, for that beautiful look at how the final seconds of that round played out. And the Frost mats, you always got to watch out for those. That's why Frost is such a controversial operator. Sometimes she's useless. Other times, it gets you in a position like that. It takes out the star player, one of the best gunners in this lobby, Freak, without even a say. He can't shoot back against a mat that's on the floor that he doesn't see.
It hurts. Stick, it hurts to just mention that players at this level won't step into things like that. Won't fall for it, I guess, is kind of the term. But no, absolutely, just does it. Not paying attention. Pushes a little bit too aggressively. Knows his teammates down. Doesn't want to let them kind of secure. Doesn't matter. Falls into it. Downs themselves. Ultimately leading to their loss. And we're tied here going into round 11. A 5-5. Vale has surmounted it despite Synthetic taking two back-to-back, or sorry, not two back-to-back, despite Synthetic taking one at the initial stages of their attack. Vale has made a pretty large comeback. I believe they've taken 3 here because it was a 2-4 at the halftime.
And they've started to kind of get the wheels rolling. The first half we had seen for the defense's courtesy in favor of Synthetic, who went 4-2. So you had a fairly strong performance there. Right now, Vale are already about to meet that marker of progress on this first half, and I don't know, there could be a 5-1 split going forward here. I think Synthetic are going to kind of shake off the cobwebs a little bit and recognize that, if they lose this, they would have to battle against the mounting pressure of Vale on match point, which has not been seen in regulation so far in this best of 2. But additionally, they would have to kind of accept that there's so much more road that begins to roll out ahead of them in the sort of, I guess, the journey to recovering Villa and reaching a position where you could walk away with a win. Synthetic do not want to move away from this, but Mo, oh my, he gets Psychosis. The bullet hole peek just doesn't work.
Mo Hesse finding that shot, and honestly, I think we should have seen Psychosis actually just spray in that attempt. Why is he peeking it again? Hoping and praying, and Hyper's taking a big fat L, dropping now below 50 HP. Synthetic taking a pretty heavily advantage now. So you've already taken 1 kill, now a second as Freak will find Frozen, and you're also damaged pretty heavily. Hyper's out. Marmalade, who's sitting down, and Pretty is also going for a bullet hole. Vale is trying to pull absolutely everything out here, pulling out all stops to deny Synthetic, but Synthetic's on a hot streak. They're continuing this spree. Freak, who's already dropped 10 kills for themselves after only dropping 15 the round before, on the map before, I guess I should say. We could see it if it does make it to another overtime. We could see Freak try to drop even more than he previously did.
Round gets lower and lower. It seems like Vale have not been totally pushed out of position, but maybe that has just begun to happen. Hyper's lurking at the bottom of the red stairs is found out by Freak. Afer still lurking away from the objective. He'll try to rotate on through. A big pick for Marmalade there as she finds Freak, but Ash, nah, he fends off the attempt for Afers to flex off of the site. And Synthetic, 4-1. Marmalade has so much pressure resting on her shoulders to deny the match point. Two of them line up with the shots. They just don't hit. Mohesi, he gets the opener and he gets the one to close it all down. Match point for Synthetic on Team Vale's map pick of Villa.
Devastating. It's the words that I can say. I mean, back and forth. We've seen flawless rounds when it came to map 1. They both had dropped one in the process, but none yet, but that was about as close as it can get, only losing Freak, who had already done exponentially large amounts of damage to the opposition. Vale was an open wound in that round, hemorrhaging constantly, and every single time Synthetic would fire around, the wound would grow even more and more grotesque, festering as the round went onward. Synthetic will take that one, and they'll be quite content with it as well, and the looks of it, we do have a 0 coming through, but I think Mohesi might switch off the 6 pick is interesting. Yeah, they will switch it over to the sledge, and this is an interesting in bringing out another set of nades because you're not putting an Iana in, so you do need those explosive utilities being able to be thrown out, and you also have flash grenades in the hands of Habana. I don't want to see your smokes in the hands of Rice relegated to ADS burners. I feel it would be a waste as a way to cut off Silence because no one on the opposing side of Vale is a warden. No one's ability to deny sightline and be able to see through those, but the one thing that I will be able to comment about is kind of the selfish pick when it comes to that rower. Hypers has been rotating it constantly about who they want to play. It's been Capcans, it's been Frosts, and now again onto an Ella. Interesting decision from Vale. They're trying to find anything that works for them.
10 seconds left.
And no more an important round than this one here and now. I mean, if we can't see Vale push forward, they're going to only have 1 point coming out of this. I don't know if you can really recover with only 1 point. Hypers is going for a play that would make a lot of more sense when we're looking back towards what had gone down on Coastline. Pistol in hand. I think he's got the shotgun maybe as his primary. I didn't quite catch it. Nobody on Synthetic has opened themselves up to the rappel that he's prepared to watch for just yet. The hope for Hypers is that he spots the grappling hook as it goes up and over the edge of the master bedroom balcony. I think Mo would be his primary target, but eventually Hypers is going to grow impatient. Maybe perhaps thinking that nobody's out there for Synthetic who have attacked this and are in the progress of attacking it from a much different style. Moving in below, Nah goes down. Aver, quite a creative angle. He manages to thread the needle with the SMG-11 as he gets in to the start of round number 12.
Pretty unfortunate for Synthetic. They do manage to escape from Hypers like we talked about. More than likely is indeed using the FO12 inside of the closet. You're going to see that. If they push in Master needing to step into that closet, you can see that absolutely obliteration that can come through. You're concussed, nothing to really do, hard to see anything at all, and next thing you know, you've got 30 shots of buckshot within a 1 second period. That's just devastating any of your Eternals. However, it's not going to be Hypers that finds the first kill like we've already mentioned. You do lose out on your Ash, which was banned previously, so you're already used to playing without it, but you are a man down. Another will fall as well. Frozen connecting with the AUG into Freak, and those are your 2 heaviest top fraggers already out for the count. Vale's looking like they're going to bring it once again to an overtime.
This looks like we might be stretching on into the late hours of the evening. If Synthetic can't manage to summon a miracle, Mo, he'll try to run away, and even still is being pestered by the openings, the vertical holes created by Vale in the floor all throughout the objective. Poison goes prone. Outside the bathroom, he tries to use the cheeky drone hole angle to perhaps summon a little bit of intel. Jumping into the walk-in closet, he's quite weak now as Hypers tries desperately to use the FO12. The down is there for Poison, and Psychosis finds Mo. All of a sudden, it's Rice left with no remaining teammates. He'll find one as he enters on through Trophy, but Marmalade shuts it down, moving us into overtime for the second map in this best of 2.
Back overtimes. Map 2, no different from map 1. A surmounted comeback from Vale. It's a tried and true. Name something that goes together more than Vale in overtime. Apparently, I have not been able to cast. I casted for them actually going into the qualifiers. I think it was the close qualifiers. I casted with Crow for them. I remember them from that. And of course, Synthetic I've casted elsewhere as well, but I never saw Vale go into overtime previously. Did not know they're such overtime players. They really want to bring it all the way to the end and really stretch out the time. Maybe it's just Synthetic as the matches go on, kind of loses that mentality, kind of grows complacent, and I've said it once, I'll say it as many times as necessary. Complacency is the exact opposite of what you want. You need to be constantly on your toes, constantly switching up the play style, and constantly winning these rounds. By doing so, just catching off the opposition off guard. Vale has managed to surmount it back-to-back, and I think that we could actually see Vale take a really big comeback all the way to win it out, because we both predicted Vale would win it in the end.
Yeah, and my initial prediction that it was going to be a Vale win in regulation at a 7-5 or a 7-4 has been kind of blown away. We're going into overtime again. Already this kind of approaching, I think, probably one of the longer matches inside of week 3 for SCS. Freak, I think, is one player that has to step up or should bear a little bit more responsibility for his team. Freak has really good rounds, but he also has rounds where he's a little bit quiet, where he walks in a frost match or he loses a chance gunfight against Psychosis. I think if Freak can be successful, that's the test of whether or not Synthetic will win a round, because Freak has been the driving force that's constantly moving forward. If Freak goes off, if Nog goes off, there could be a situation where Vale's comeback dream that they have built up so far through these 12 and now 13 rounds is shut out before we see the grace of Infinite OT.
Now, Stick, a question to kind of get the gears turning here for a second. For these first 12 rounds that we saw come through, who was that standout player for you? I want to see what you think, and I also want to see if that'll change as the game progresses onward.
It's hard to pick one direct player. It's not like Coastline where there was always somebody definitely showing up on the board. We've had a little bit more consistency, and I think that's shown by the measure of all the picks. One thing that's big, Poison's almost neutral. For the captain, the hard support, that doesn't always happen. And on Team Vale's side, they are all, you know, within 2 or 3 picks. Nobody's going like super double negative or, you know, anyone's terribly down bad. These are all recoverable stat lines that show the consistency of the impact. If I had to pick one player, I think over the course of the rounds, probably would be Frozen.
I can get behind that. I really can, in fact. I think the other one I would say would probably be Psychosis. Just kind of for the miracle shots they've already connected and the impacts their frags have had. But neither of us kind of naming someone on Synthetic, which might just show why we're seeing a lack of them so far to this and allowing that comeback. Rice finding Hypers, Freak finding Marmalade. And Vale as a player down, tying it back up with Frozen's kill to Freak. A 3v3. Actions dropping here, not relying on this last 30-second meta as this push, but this 90 hallway of Classical is going to be a pretty pivotal point for them. So you do see Aver trying to step up. Psychosis finding Rice. Aver finding Mohesi. In a 3v1, it's just Poison who will also fall to the crosshair in hand of Aver's. They'll take their first defensive round here in overtime.
Getting the ball rolling for their comeback effort, now on match point and one step away from shutting us out and for guaranteeing that Team Vale through the rest of the season can at least remain a little bit more competitive. And seeing what Afer made happen in that round, now I kind of want to change who I selected as my MVP because he was going crazy. So fluid, so comfortable inside of the 90 quarter. He was dodging around, and I think probably brought that round back from where it looked like Sin, as the attackers had everything going for them. They had, it looked like man advantage, they had solid control of the site, and it wasn't those situations where you build up all the advantages in your back pocket at the very end. No, they had 60 seconds to make that happen.
The nature of that round really came down to Synthetic failing to predict Vale's aggressiveness in their defensive hold. Like you said, they felt comfortable enough to actually play aggressive, which is what Synthetic had been doing consistently on map 1. Vale this time around, they've done this time and time again, kind of opting and picking up Synthetic's own style, and it seems to work best against Synthetic. They're adapting more than they are reacting, and Synthetic is failing to react to them and also failing to adapt to the situational at hand. They'll have an opportunity here. They are going back, and they're still not bringing a hard breach except for the pocket breach in Marmalade's pockets. Hopefully she can get some use off of this, but from the last time we have seen this one, and this was for Vale's attack, we had seen in that first attack round they had in taking this one, they had no pincer, no stage, no aggressive nature on the veranda. They didn't force Synthetic into an uncomfortable position. I need to see Vale take that veranda side and take the other side and get a full pincer. We need to see this back and forth action. I think that if they can make Synthetic uncomfortable on the objective, not comfortable where they're sitting, then it could entirely go in Vale's favor.
One thing to mention as far as the momentum of overtime, that previous round, one good shot hitting for Freak. I don't know what the post you would say of that would be, but Freak hit a good shot, Nah got shut down immediately. And I think it's that duo, the fact that both of them weren't effective, that denied Synthetic the round, because at the end of the day, this has been a very frag-heavy Villa. It's not the traditional, hard breach is everything and creating those openings. We haven't seen a whole lot of focus surrounding the hard breach in each and every one of the rounds, and it's not like we're sitting here waiting for the hard breach to happen. Gears are moving, and the attackers are getting other things done. They're finding their entry points, and as much as we kind of criticize Vale a little bit for not running the hard breach in the first half of this game, they haven't always totally needed it.
I think it's what Vale's comfortable with. I think they're not very comfortable bringing out those hard breaches. I think they're just trying to outfrag them, and I think it's been working fairly consistently for them, but they will lose Frozen right off the bat. Poison will connect the shot. Psychosis, who's hanging out on those astronomy stairs, is not going to find anything for themselves, but it'll be Aether instead who does. Nah will fall, and now Freak will fall. Like you mentioned, if they lose those two, your top fragger, Synthetic, is no longer sitting pretty, but Psychosis now down from a Nitro Cell. Moesi not actually aware. They need to think about how to act from here. Nades in the hand of Apers from down below will try to connect from the opposition. Tossing a nade, it does kill his teammate, however. In an unfortunate situation, Psychosis will fall, tying it back up in a 3v3, but Mohesi's still in a firefight engagement. Hypers wins that one with the SMG-11 in hand. And now a 3v2, Vale have the man advantage.
Poison on his flank has managed to return all the way now towards the Boar connector. Moving forward, the Sledge Hyper's catching so many bullets, but the challenge is there. Marmalade saves the day, and now it's Poison who has to get the clutch. They're going for the res, though, and this is an opportunity, but Marmalade will hit it, and Team Vale win on their map pick, garnering 2 points in the final hour. Marmalade saves the day with that reaction.
So, 3 points total across these two maps. If I'm correct here, feel free to correct me. They went to overtime on map 1, losing it out, so they do get 1 point for it, and then coming over here to this map and winning it in overtime, so they get 2 points for it. So 3 points total, both sides escaping with that, but your main contention in that situation was they were trying to face off against each other, so breaking even doesn't necessarily bode aggressively one way or another.
Hard-fought victory is definitely the way that I would describe this. It's Team Vale who come away with it, but not without trial and error round for round. Synthetic put through their effort, and I'm glad to see that Sin have finally found a roster of players that have enough cohesion, that have gun skill, that can work cooperatively together, because that's really what we saw today. A ton of very smart, calculated rounds on Coastline, and as well moving over towards this map, Villa, to be able to stay fighting at their weight on their opponent's map pick, where perhaps they were less prepared than they would have liked to be.
Absolutely. I think you had mentioned, because I had asked that question, I brought it up forward to you about who you wanted to play as that player of the game, that MVP of this map right here. Neither of us had mentioned a Synthetic player. Team Vale really showing us something spectacular, and it's exactly what happened, a spectacular finish, taking it in the end. And you had mentioned kind of Afer kind of taking that one from you, kind of giving you the idea about going through and saying, hey, I want to give it to him instead. And I wanted to give it to Psychosis after a phenomenal game coming through, and with the inability to secure the kill initially, falling to a teammate's grenade from Hypers, and overall, I might have to agree with you as well. Frozen, who I also would say is a pretty big contestant for that, is higher on the board in terms of overall kill average and maybe impact, but it's really Afers that had that comfortability in those last few rounds, really clutching it up and securing the victory.
Yeah, I think the stat line maybe doesn't show that Afer went like super nuclear, not like Coastline nuclear, but he was in rounds and he was hitting crucial shots. Every time the team needed him to do something, needed him to make a play or shut down an angle, he was doing it for his team, and he was able to play comfortably, which is not always possible. I think that's what helped Team Vale, because they had everybody else doing their part. They had Psychosis, who proved exactly why his rating is so astronomically high because he's so consistent. And it's not just that he's consistent, he is so consistently above average that it's hard to match his level of play.
I mean, obviously, when you have Psycho going off 16-4 in the first map, I mean, you already have a precedent in place to just continue that into this map as well. And maybe not exactly that player that was like every kill is dropping form like Freaks usually were in that map. It was really just the shots, the miracle shots, the shots that shouldn't have hit, the positioning, the playstyles that really favored them in that position. And Marmalade was that top player we saw in map 1. I want to be interested to see who's the top player for Team Vale in the map that they actually win, right? Yeah. I want to see who's their top player, because I think you could have a contention whether Freak and Nah are going to be the top players for Synthetic, because Nah, highest rating we had in map 1 of 1.45, took that one easily for the top rating. I think it's going to be a lot closer. Nah was getting shut down, but Freak and him were just neck and neck. It could go either way. It just wasn't enough to guarantee them the victory.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and dive into the statistics and actually get the answers to all of those questions surrounding who played better, who maybe had a little bit of a drop-off as compared to the earlier events of Coastline. Marmalade sticking in that first position, not, getting the most crazy amount of kills, not the top frag, but the KOST. That was something we saw. Marmalade evident in her plays, not always on the frag op, but getting the kills that really mattered, and 78% KOST really shows you why Marmalade is the rock of this team. Over on Synthetic, a little bit more of a struggle. We didn't see Mohesi really fulfill as much of his duties as he was on the earlier map, and Nah, definitely, I think Nah had a little bit more of a struggle. He looked uncomfortable. He was kind of struggling to get a start in a lot of rounds. Rice, I like to see the fact that he was able to go above positive, because Synthetic, for a lot of times, it feels like they have two players, their entry duo, that are really consistent, really awesome, always going above average in the rating. They haven't always had that consistently across the board for the players who are a little bit more support, a little bit more flex in terms of their roles.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to say that Nah, who had the highest rating overall on the last one and played Ash in terms of their attacking operator for the attack on this map, did better on a Jackal. An overall rating of 1.45 in comparison to a 0.82. Pretty large differential, struggling when it came to the Ash. It was banned in the first one. You didn't have it available. Why they aren't playing that one? Seems to be better the Jackal. Maybe something like look forward to. Maybe it's just the Ash utilities was really tilting the scales to pick that one up. But like you had mentioned, Mohesi really struggling, a 0.65 rating, having a 0.84 in the map before, and a 0.2 differential is devastating to behold. But once again, Marmalade, she is a monster when it comes to that one. A 0.05 differential in their rating, really staying consistent. It's just looking like Team Vale found their stride on this one and really was able to deny Freak on those entries who we had seen so many of in map 1 and wasn't able to consistently drop those here on map 2. But nonetheless, it did go neck and neck all the way to the overtime, and they were able to secure themselves a little bit of points, just not the full 3-0.
Not the full 3-0 in terms of game-wide performance, and I think Synthetic, this is a turning point. This was a much better game, especially when you compare it to how they faced off against Aggro. When you look at the overall statistics, you can see that maybe Mohesi, he had 0.75, but that's above some of the lows that we've seen Synthetic score. Freak, 1.0 overall. Rice had 1.11, which was quite surprising, and Nah, almost 1.2. Over on the Team Vale side of things, I think the statistics are, they're a little bit better. You have Marmalade, who just played out of her mind today, securing the second top KOST, 3 plants. Quite a good margin. Poison bumping his up today with 4 total, playing that hard support role. And the fact that Poison went 2-2 on his entries, I think really shows his growth and his proficiency as that key hard support planter figure.
Yeah, and we had talked about this throughout it in terms of map 2. We had talked about the differential between players. It was Marmalade. She was so consistent, and consistency was the key for Team Vale. When you take a look at Synthetic side, it's even across the board, especially for the KOSTs. It's very even, right? No one player except for maybe Rice is standing out one way or another. You do have a little bit lower on Mohesi, but for the side of Team Vale, you have 2 standout players, both above 70% absolutely thrashing, staying consistent, doing everything they can to get their team into this one and eventually win it out on map 2. You need to keep an eye out on Marmalade and Psycho. They are going to go off, and if they're able to bring themselves back out so they don't get relegated out of that group phase, then it could be someone to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I'm really keen to watch Synthetic to see if after securing this win with the massive reserve of rounds to look forward to as far as what can be built upon, what can be fixed. I love the way and how they played on Coastline. Really solid positioning. They played well to utilize Freak to the best of his capabilities. In fact, you know, how I think willing they were to put him in that role where it's not like you just kind of shoot a few people and then at the first sign of the attackers moving in, you kind of like scurry off. No, that was not how Freak played. Freak was in your face. He was letting you know that he can hit his shots, and so many he hit on Coastline, but that positioning and that play style, it just didn't quite transfer when we got over towards Villa, which required a little bit more in terms of the coordination. You couldn't just have one defender win every gun battle because that's just not how Villa plays.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself, and it does go all the way. Overtimes for both sides. We didn't get to see Infinite Overtime rear its ugly head on map 2, but we did still get to see it go all the way to that, and we were both correct. I want to state it out here. We both stated that Team Vale was more than likely going to win it out, and they did give me a little bit of a heart attack, right? I mean, it got pretty neck and neck there, but making and surmounting above all odds into the overtime and winning it out. I think they did like 4 or 5 rounds just straight back to back and taking it into the end, but this has been SCS. My name is Infernosis, joined here by Sticula. We will be back next week, 6 p.m. on Wednesday EST. Hope to see each and every single one of you there.